Welcome everyone. It's Friday Film Threat Livecast. It's our Halloween special. My name is Chris Gore, and we're having technical difficulties with our camera at the moment, but we're gonna get that fixed real soon. Today on the show, our Halloween special. Yes, we're gonna talk about South Park joining the Panderverse. The episode debuted late last night. We're gonna discuss it. Plus, Alan's finally going to give us his Dicks the Musical review. Plus, Five Nights at Freddy's has come out and received a very low critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. What's that all about? Plus, other films, including Boudica, Queen of War, Old Dads playing on Netflix, Holy Frit, a documentary in limited release. Alan has seen a film called Lessons in Chemistry. We may or may not get to my review of The Boy and the Heron, plus our favorite Halloween movies and your chat comments and questions. Let's get things started. Let's get things going. And happy you are with us today. Come on, I gotta find Alan. All right. Well, the music is still going here. I don't know why. I gotta cut off that music at some point. All right. All right, is it off? Okay, here we go. Alan is here. I'm looking for him. It's and I actually have a treat for him. I have a treat for Alan that I'm very excited for you to see. But where is he? You can read these questions if you can't see them. That didn't work. It didn't work.
Alan!
Hey, man. Hey. All right, look, we both are wearing Halloween costumes, and we're going
to be using this background, by the way.
What's that?
You mean to be using this background?
This background's on purpose. This is it's from Award This.
Okay.
So, yeah, you don't like it? What's wrong with this background?
Well, I mean, I don't know that it's on brand or anything, but
whatever.
Yeah.
It's look, it is what it is. So, all right. We are going to, and also I'm gonna change. I mean, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna change my name for the show. I'm just gonna totally just change my name for the show, which will probably give you some clue as to like who I am. But look, their entire whole YouTube shows, their entire whole YouTube shows with just a bunch of icons that look like this. But all right, I think it's time for us to turn on our cameras and reveal. Here we go. 3, 2. There we go. All right, wait, come back.
There we go.
Hey.
I will rule the universe.
This is I actually put effort into this costume. Okay. I put effort into this costume.
Yeah, I put money into my costume.
Money? What did you put? You bought a red sweatshirt and the ball.
This is a costume. This is a full-on costume.
I have been to conventions.
Dude, look at that. We look like twins.
Oh my God, that is the worst. It's very homemade and cheap, which I kind of actually appreciate.
Yeah.
So
I believe that was the instructions I was given as well.
Well, all I can say is this: both of us have uncomfortable. Like this wig is so uncomfortable right now. I don't know if you know what. I got to be dedicated. We got to do the whole show like this. Let's see who's in our chat before we get to everything today. Who is here? Let's see. We have Toxic Waltz N8. Cartman in the special is basically making fun of people like Chris and Gary. Well, yes, it does come to that. Here we go. Eric Stratton says, I hope Alan has his banner backdrops ready. Yeah, he better. No, we're fine. I mean, it just, a lot of it is communication. And then I'll add something at the last minute and then it is what it is.
Yeah. I will say I haven't really been home since we ended the last live stream.
Oh, for real?
Well, I mean, we went to Five Nights at Freddy's that night and I got back late. And then I had something to do with my dad. And then I was out in Hollywood watching the new Aquafina movie.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week. How about we talk about it next week? This is one of the few shows that does a multiverse well so far, lol, says Anonymous. Fan of Box says, you guys going to review Five Nights at Freddy? My kids is excited. Yes, we'll be reviewing it. We have one piece of business at the top, couple pieces of business. We're going to get right to it. I did see it last night with a very enthusiastic crowd. Castigan, who's a member, says, just checking for Disney execs and all the cupboards and under all the beds. And Davina Duckworth says, Chris Gorange. Yeah, that's what I look like. I definitely look orange. What can I say? And let's see. Carlos Alfredo Lopez says, Ing the Merciless will have everything ready to take on Flash GOREdon's challenges. Yes, if you're listening to the show on Spotify, which some people do, we have, I see the number of downloads we get on Spotify, and it's not insignificant to throw out a double negative there. I don't know. But I am dressed as Flash Gordon, and Alan is haphazardly dressed as Ing the Merciless. You got to go like this with your fist.
Yes.
But that's what
I will rule you one day, Flash Gordon.
Well, it was the weirdest plot. The planet of Mongo was going to crash into the Earth. That was the original plot of the first Flash Gordon, which didn't make a lot of sense. I don't think they understood physics as well, astrophysics as well back in the day. And then a final comment here from Lord Thaw says, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, sign up as a member, then join us on Discord. I appreciate it. All right. I have a treat for you, Alan. It's actually a treat, and this is a Halloween treat. It is from our intrepid producer, Glenn Brown, who made a Halloween themed it's under 1 minute. It's a movie. It's this is a Film Threat original. Glenn wanted it. It made it just for this show today. And we're going to watch it. So you ready? It's called The Ferocious Chef. So let's check it out.
When I have a dinner party, I love to serve a good handsome platter of meat, or what the French call cuit de filet croissant de chèvre. A simple yet sophisticated recipe for a lovely night of dining. Remember, frightened meat is tender meat. Now, to get started, the first thing you'll want to do is... The Ferocious Chef is made possible by a grant from the Polaroid Corporation and by a grant from Hills Brothers Coffee Incorporated.
Go follow Glenuccio for more goodness like that. That was fun. It's very Robot Chicken inspired. I love Robot Chicken. Yeah,
that's great. Cool. Wow, I have now newfound respect for Glenn.
What do you mean?
My respect was always high, but now it's even higher. I mean, that's pretty good.
No, it was very good. But we need to pivot, and we're gonna pivot, and we're gonna talk about a film called, and guess what? The photos are not where they're supposed to be. I see no photos for Dix the Musical. I see a bunch of photos for Holy Frit and Lessons in Chemistry and all this. I don't see Dix the Musical.
Okay, here, let me see if I can pull some.
So there you go. We're just gonna go like
go to something else, and then we'll return to Dix.
Sure, but Alan, this is your review because I opted out of seeing Dix the Musical. So Alan, this has been a long time coming. And I didn't mean anything by that. Tell us your review of Dix the Musical.
Yes. Well, let's talk about Dix. Dix was long and hard to watch. And so let's just get into it.
No, tell me seriously. Yeah. First, like, the thing is this, I saw the trailer for this and I said, oh, hell no. I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to see this movie. It's super gay. It looks super gay. And I'm probably
it eventually gets super gay.
I mean, all musicals are just sort of, I think most musicals are just the right amount of gay.
Mhm.
This might be more gay than even you can handle. But
Well, look. Let me defend it a little bit here. It gets super gay, but it gets gay at the end. The movie. How do you describe this movie? So there's a warning, kind of a prologue that's brought up. It's basically two gay creatives decided that they're going to make a movie musical for the very first time. This is the first project, and that's kind of how this is built. And the story is about these two twins. Um, Let me see. I believe it's Craig and Trevor. They're two twins, but they were separated at birth, and both have gone down similar paths in the sense that they've become these super straight um, sales executives for a Roomba type company. And this company doesn't sell. This is the joke, but the company doesn't sell Roombas. They sell the spare parts for the Roombas. And so these two guys, they've been working in separate offices, and then one day the company merges, and they have to work together. And they find out that they don't know who they are, much like Parent Trap. And but what they are the two top salesmen. Yeah, there you go, Craig and Trevor there. They're the two top salesmen. They get into this really heated battle, all done to music, and they want to be the best salesman of the company, and so that's kind of the fight. But as they're working late into the night trying to overcome each other's sales records, they realize that they're brothers, and so they do the Parent Trap thing, and they switch places. So and then they go and visit their parents. And their parents are Warren and Evelyn. Warren is played by Nathan Lane, and Evelyn is played by Megan Mullally. And we find out that Nathan Lane, they want to bring the parents back together, except Nathan Lane is now gay. That character Harris, and Megan Mullally, her vagina fell off, and so that's
clarify for me what exactly her vagina fell off
means. Okay, so she has a vagina and it fell off.
Do they just say the words? This isn't like...
No, eventually it comes into play. In fact, it rescues everybody. And I know. So this is where we're at. And look, it's about 10 minutes in, I was out. I was done. I will say this, that the music is very good. The songs, they at least rhyme and they have some meaning to it. And so as a musical and as music, it's well done. But the story, this is the thing about this story is, I've been doing improv comedy for 30 years. And this whole movie is like a very bad improv show. I don't know what your experiences are out there, but there was this rise in what they call long form improv, where you walk into a theater and the cast does an entire improv based on one suggestion throughout the entire time. So you're seeing a 1 hour improv comedy special. And that's what this is. This is an hour and a half improv comedy. And the reason it's bad is, for some reason, the young folk have gotten to the head that comedy is all about saying the weirdest, most over-sexualized, most vulgar things you can say on stage, and that an audience is willing to sit there for an hour and a half or an hour just listening to people do crazy, wacky stuff. And that's what this movie is. It's, someone said, hey, let's do a gay Parent Trap. And all they do is just go crazy with it. The two guys, when they meet, they hate each other, and so they're calling them, they're basically busting each other's balls the whole time. A lot of gay jokes in that. And then there's the whole, oh, dad's gay, but we've always known dad is gay, and then mom lost her vagina, and so there's the joke there. And the weirdest thing about this movie is that Dad Harris is raising these two sewer children. They're like little sewer rats that have become humans, and they're played by two little puppets. And this is the movie, and and it just gets weird and wacky, and that's the whole thing. And someone the last time we were about to talk to it, someone mentioned that God, and you can see in the background there, God is played by Bowen Yang. This movie,
God is Bowen Yang. All right, great.
Bowen Yang, and throughout the movie, he just kind of appears once in a while to make comments, which is where comedy is today. Is where the joke is about me commenting on the craziness that's going on, which is not a joke at all. And then it gets into this really blasphemous thing at the end that's done for comedy. Yeah, I cannot recommend this. It's amazing to me the resources that went behind this movie, because it's a good look.
It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me because
it's well produced. It's got I forget who the producer is, but it's a very well known producer. The sets are great. The music, the orchestrations, the songs of Larry Charles, that's who directed it. It's all well done, but it's just the story. It's just nonsense and silliness for an hour and a half, and it gets tiresome. And and again,
it sounds like based on
it's just bad improv. It is bad improv, and if you've ever been to a bad improv show, you know exactly what I mean.
I know what you're talking about, like a bad improv show, but it sounds like an SNL skit that went on too long.
Essentially,
especially with Bowen Yang. I mean, I saw the trailer and I thought this looks cringe and insufferable.
Mm-hmm.
And you really took one for the team to see it. I can tell you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I love musicals. I've got the screener for the Titanic musical, which I've seen live, so I'm looking forward to it.
Wait, you saw the Titanic musical?
I saw the Titanic, yes. I actually for 1 year in my life, I subscribed to the Amundsen over in LA and to their musical subscription. So I got Chicago, Bring the Noise, Bring the Funk. Got to see Ian McKellen do The Crucible, which was amazing. And Titanic was in that package. But with this one, yeah, it's just you're gonna find it hard to sit through. And Saturday Night Live.
What are you gonna find it to sit through?
It's hard to sit through. Is that what it is? Yeah. Find it hard to sit through.
It's impossible not to like talk about this without making some dick joke. You just can't do it.
I know. Yeah, I mean, it's like I was semi looking forward to it. I don't like being late, so I came early, and just literally, I was the only one, and I was the only one in my theater, and the creepiest thing was. Yeah, the creepiest thing though was when the movie ended, the cleaning staff at the theater were sitting in the back row, and I'm walking out going, "Hey, hope you like the movie."
Oh my God. All right. Well, we've got a bunch of comments here, so let's see what people thought. And then we're going to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's. So so stick around. But okay, let's go through these comments. First, let's see. Gunho Mac, who's been a member for 4 months, says Dix was shorter than I expected. The plot didn't go very deep, and the acting was a bit stiff. I enjoyed Five Nights in Freddy more. Five Nights in Freddy sounds more like a porn. So there you go.
No, I mean, look, the length was average, and my understanding is that length doesn't matter, and so
we'll tell that to Martin Scorsese. Let's see a comment here. Joseph says, "Who is the intended audience?"
I hate to say it, but it's the young folk. It's Gen Z, millennials. Their sense of comedy is horrible, and Saturday Night Live is a great indicator of that, where it's just people do crazy things on screen, and then everyone comments about it, and that's your comedy. That's what comedy is today: doing something weird and then comment on it.
Well, at least first of all, this is something that I discovered. Was a Dix the Musical sing-along in U.S. theaters 1 week only, and this was the graphic they were using to promote it on social media, which is crazy. So
yeah, I mean, the other thing is, except for the blasphemous anthem at the end, there's really nothing memorable about the music. I didn't walk away with any song in mind except for the last one. At least when you have like Rocky Horror Picture Show, you know, each song has something you walk away with, something catchy,
Yeah,
and that
Rocky
you
Horror is
remember.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw Rocky Horror when I was a kid in high school. We used to go on weekends for midnight shows. You'd throw toast, you drink in the parking lot, uh, do all the things you do at like Rocky Horror. They're like certain things. You throw rice, like it was weird and it was like a fun, audience participation experience. And also, by the way, Rocky Horror Picture Show, very gay, and very fun.
Yeah.
Probably one of the, if we were to make a list, we were joking last night that like, during Pride Month, we should make a list of the best gay films. And I started making a list and they're all really good movies, but they don't push any agenda. They're just entertaining. Rocky Horror Picture Show is very entertaining. Was Dix the Musical based on an actual stage play that then they made into
No.
a movie?
No, I look. If I know improv like I know improv, they probably performed this one night in their little downstairs theater and said, "Hey, we should make a musical out of this," and they did.
It sounds awful. All right, let's get to more of your comments.
It's just the entire movie. You can't take it seriously, and that's the problem. Is when you can't take comedy seriously, you become separated from it. You're no longer engaged in the story.
Right.
And this happens from the very start.
All right, comments, and then we're going to move on here. Let's see real quick. I'm interested in watching this, says Nut Bunny. Anonymous says, Ing gets Merciless on Dix.
Yeah, I'm all over Dix.
Marco CCS65 says, so is it a musical for radio?
What?
You know what that means?
I'm not sure if it's a radio play. No, and if it's or can you play it on the radio? Absolutely not. Right. It's pretty vulgar.
Idari says, I love how Mr. Ing looks. And Snakes and Funeral says, not enough ball busting. The nerd far away says, someone please tell these kids that isn't comedy.
No.
And Wes Ray says, Alan, would you say it leaned more to the right or to the left?
Definitely lean to the left.
Basically, so this just a comment on your whole review. John Enigma says, so SNL now?
Yeah. I mean, sadly, half of sometimes SNL will do something funny, and the other times it'll be something like this.
Yeah.
I should say Megan Mullally is great. I loved her. She made a great character out of it.
Fraulein Sausage Ball says best musical ever was Marge's role as Blanche Dubois in Streetcar Named Desire. And Agent 57 million DM, 57,000 DM or take it, whatever. It's based on an off-Broadway play called Fucking Identical Twins.
Wow.
That could be true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm almost certain that the origins of this was some improv done some night, and they at the end of it they're all patting each other on the back saying that was a great evening and that was a great performance. Let's make this a musical.
We should make it a movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like it just seems typical. So yeah. There you go. All right. Well, there. All right. Are you happy now, everyone? You got your fill of dick? Everybody? All right. It's time to pivot. We're going to pivot very quickly here. I want to get a better look at your costume before we pivot.
I mean, this is pretty much, identical twins.
This is so, I don't know. Maybe we should do a poll who has the better costume. Come on. Look.
Yeah. The effort you put into it is amazing.
What? I got a wig and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm stuck with this beard for the rest of the show.
All right, let's talk about Five Nights at Freddy's. Then we're going to get to South Park joining the Panderverse. So here we go. Wait, we have to pivot, which means I'm going to show a video really quickly. Right here. Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. Five Nights at Freddy's is here. This is the movie based on the video game. It's a very popular video game that you can find on Steam and other platforms. It is a horror video game. I happen to like horror video games. Uh, there are a whole bunch of different ones where you're basically just exploring something haunted. This is kind of a version of Chuck E. Cheese that exists that has been abandoned, and you're being confronted by killer animatronics. The original video game is, I'm told, incredibly gory and bloody. This film is PG-13, but I'll say this: it pushes the limits of PG-13 with moments of there are some gory moments. There's also a lot of suggested violence. There's a shockingly violent thing, I'm not going to give it away, that happens in the first third of the movie, where they kind of show you it. You think you see it, then you see it kind of in shadow, and then you know what happens. And it's a shocker. Like, okay, I know this is PG-13. That might have crossed the line. And I should make it clear that I am not a fan of the game. I've seen the game. I'm aware of the franchise, but I don't know the lore. But I'll say this: the actor Josh Hutcherson, who plays his character's name is Mike Schmidt. This is his first big role since the Hunger Game movies, at least that I've noticed. I'm sure he's been in other films, but he's a security guard. He has a young sister who is having developmental problems. She sort of lives in her head, barely speaks, and the sister, her name is what's her name? Abby. She's, drawing little cartoons. She's, she's getting her emotions out by drawing pictures of people and family and things in her head, but barely communicates with her brother, who is basically her caretaker. And the brother's just trying to get by. But the brother, Mike, played by Josh Hutcherson, sorry, is having this horrible recurring dream about his brother that disappeared at a family picnic when he was a kid. And you see him as a kid, and then eventually as the dream evolves, and you see this recurring nightmare of he's trying to notice details in his dream. He's actually trying to go into his dream to see if there are clues he can find to solve the mystery of his brother's abduction. And he's obsessed with it, and it's wrecked him emotionally as an adult. The fact that he was unable to save his brother or solve the mystery of his disappearance. He takes this, job working at security at the what's the name of the place? Fredda, it's something.
Oh, yeah. I forget. It's like Freddy something pizzeria.
Whatever. They serve pizza. And I'll say this: I used to go to Chuck E. Cheese when my kids were young. We went to Chuck E. Cheese, and all I remember was the place smelled like dirty socks, so it smelled like feet, because all the kids take their shoes off and they go run around. So the place smelled like feet, and then the pizza was bad, but you could get cheap pitchers of beer. That's all I remember about my Chuck E. Cheese experience. I never went to Chuck E. Cheese when I was a kid, but I did take my kids to the venue, so I'm familiar with this type of place. In any case, one night he makes friends with a girl who is a cop who's local, tries to acclimate him to this space, tell him about the lore and the history of this venue, and then eventually ends up bringing his sister to this place with him to work, and creepy things begin to happen. That's the premise. I mean, you get that. I'll say this: when I saw the trailer, I thought the trailer was terrible. I thought the trailer made it look, well, for lack of a better term, cheesy. The film itself is very good. I am surprised, and I'll tell you why it's very good, because it takes the subject matter seriously. What I'm also surprised about is that this movie is on Peacock. The screening I was at last night was packed. It was not just packed, it was packed with kids. When I say kids, we're talking like teenagers, probably anywhere from 11 to 16, 17 years old. And they were all taking photos of each other in front of like the big poster for Five Nights at Freddy's. This was literally the Taylor Swift film, but for 15-year-old boys.
Yeah, I was listening to Jay and Jeremy on Geeks and Gamers yesterday, and so apparently the movie cost around 25 million, and if that's true, they said that it's already made its money back in pre-sales.
Already made its money back in pre-sales. It was last night, Thursday, in what they do sort of the pre-show, right? It made $10 million. It was the biggest horror film post-pandemic it beat everything. Like, and it's on Peacock. You can I have Peacock. I could have watched it at home. I wanted to see it with an audience. But what I was surprised by, and so I'm not a fan of the franchise. I know nothing about the lore. I only know the story that's being presented to me. And I thought the what made it work was the tone. It took it very seriously. It leaned into suspense, and it didn't lean into gore. Even though the original video games are very gory, I did have a friend in our movie meetup group. His name is Tyler. He's very familiar with the games. He was initially kind of disappointed with the movie because the movie wasn't as gory as the video game. Then he saw it a second time. He said, well, I've warmed up to it now. It's different. And I think based on the intended audience, I say they loved it.
Yeah. I mean, I can give you perspective. I can give you because I took my daughter to see it. And she is a fan of the game and the books. And,
oh wow!
And so, and then we one Halloween night we actually played the first game together, and made it to Wednesday, because we just kept getting killed. And I will say, it from the half game I played, it felt very familiar. The whole security room setup is from the video game. You know, the idea that you know, you're looking through security cameras watching robots trying to kill you is there. And I will say from her perspective, yeah, let me back up just a moment by saying, you know, me taking her to movies early really gives her no cachet at school. No, you know, kids don't care that she's seeing, you know, that she'll see the Marvels early or something like that. Right, but this one was the one that was like, oh, you're seeing Five Nights at Freddy's early, and so she got to go in yesterday and give the early review. But you know, her feeling, listening to her talk about Five Nights at Freddy's the movie, must have been like her listening to me talk about Star Wars. You know, because she's talking about all the things that they went off book from or off game from. You know, she was frustrated that Vanessa was, you know, I guess, she was a cop and not one of the robots that I guess she eventually becomes. And so I'm getting this lesson as to this story. And, you know, and she basically said that as a fan of the series, she wasn't that thrilled with it, but she ultimately did like the movie when it came through. And I just kept saying, yeah, you know, they have to do some liberties. They have to make some changes in order to make a movie work. And that's what they did. And so the other thing was during the screening, Easter eggs would show up that I had no clue of. And she's just freaking out. And I hear people, this is the press screening we were at. Even people in the press screening were freaking out at certain cameos that were appearing, such as one YouTuber who is kind of considered the most knowledgeable of Five Nights at Freddy. He played, I guess, the waiter in the diner. Right.
And everybody screamed with the waiter, and he was just like, maybe that's a theory. And people went,
you know, and I'm just sitting there going, what the hell? What the hell is going on here?
It was fun to see it with an enthusiastic audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
But setting that aside, put that aside, and all the jangling keys of like, look at this stuff from Five Nights at Freddy's. it's actually a good film. Now, is it the greatest horror film? No. Is it one of the best of the year? I mean, it's better than I expected, but it's clearly does not deserve the 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if you could bring up the Rotten Tomatoes, but it was last I saw was 28% on Rotten Tomatoes for this movie for the critic score. That is a biased critic score, and I'm going to tell you why. Because, and this is, I got to give Blumhouse a lot of credit. The creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, it was revealed that he not only donated to Trump, but he donated to Republicans. He donated to other Republicans. Now, by the way, as an American, you can donate to whatever political campaign you want. Is that a reason to cancel somebody? So I find the critics that are panning this movie and including their political biases to review a film is I find that loathsome. Yeah, 25% on Rotten Tomatoes, audience score 88%. Can I just say this? The audience is right. This critic score reveals the critics that are hating on this movie, they're hating on it, one, because they don't understand it. And I always try to go in like, do I not understand it? I'm going to try to get this. Maybe this movie's not for me, but, serves that audience. And I ended up enjoying the film mainly because of the tone. This movie, they could have made a mockery of the concept. They took it very seriously. It's very good suspense. There are moments that are shocking. And this recurring dream that Mike has about the loss of that got me, and I'll tell you why. Anything involving missing kids as a father is your worst nightmare. The worst nightmare is anything that could happen to your child. So the idea that this was this thread and his recurring nightmare, which they would show, and they would show him try to take it further. He's trying to communicate with these other kids that are the other missing kids. He's trying to communicate with them in his dream to see if he can glean some detail about the abduction of his brother. And it is just like, it is a nightmare. I don't even want to think about that. It is the worst. So that was an aspect of it that I could relate to. And it took it very seriously, kind of like a film I would compare it to. It's very different, but The Black Phone.
Mm-hmm.
The Black Phone, which we reviewed a couple of years ago, which I thought was one of the best horror films of that year.
Absolutely.
It was so good. This comes from Blumhouse, and credit to Blumhouse. They stuck with the creator. They stuck with the creator. And they did not sideline the creator or say anything disparaging about the creator. You're free to donate to whoever, and it really bothers me that critics will hold that against a movie. I just find that I go into every film and I try to just look at it with obviously I bring in my personal biases in some ways, but I try to judge it as a movie. Is it entertaining? Does it deliver what it promised, which is something, that is, look, it's a horror film. Hopefully it's going to be scary, and hopefully I'll be taken on a journey, and all of that happened for me. So I recommend Five Nights at Freddy's, whether you're a fan or whether you're not a fan. And that's what I think the movie did well is I am not a fan and I don't know all the lore. I know the basic premise and I know some of the characters. But I really enjoyed the movie and I recommend it. Alan, do you recommend Five Nights at Freddy's?
No, I don't.
What?
Yeah, I don't. So,
why?
Okay, so to me, Five Nights at Freddy's, the thing I appreciate about Five Nights at Freddy's, it's horror for kids.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that it goes, I don't know, does it go further than Goosebumps? Maybe not. But it just felt like the movie was so watered down from a horror aspect for the sake of the kids that it just became uninteresting to me. A lot of the gore, a lot of the violence, a lot of the terror is done off screen, and I'm like, why can't why can't we push that a little bit? You mentioned Black Phone, and I would say Black Phone is to me that's a little more. That's the kind of horror. If I had a horror movie in mind for kids, I would suggest Black Phone, because I think, because you do want to terrify kids, and I think the movie, I felt like it was just pulling punches. Also, it felt like there were things missing that needed to be in this movie, that maybe because it was for kids that they wouldn't bring in, and so it felt like it was an incomplete movie to me, and from a story standpoint, and so, I mean, ultimately, I wasn't that excited about it. I felt like, and I keep saying this over and over again, I think children deserve better in terms of storytelling, and I think you could bring much more adult things into the story than what happened here. Because I think, yeah, I'm sorry. Look at the comments. I shouldn't be doing that. I feel like kids deserve better storytelling than this, and I think this is close, but it just pulled too many punches for me to be really excited about it. Quite frankly, the only really exciting thing about it was the fact that the Jim Henson studio was behind all the mechanics here.
Well, the animatronics were great. Like the design, they were, and I'll say this, just what little I know, very accurate to the game in terms of the look.
Yeah, I mean, not
very accurate, but also I think this is
look, there's supposed to be a horrific moment at the end, and I'm not going to say anything more because it's a spoiler. But to me, it wasn't that horrific. Again, a lot of what's happening is in the
talking
mind.
about the reveal, the sort of Scooby-Doo like reveal.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's the worst thing. Is my daughter spoiled that for me, and so I was kind of expecting it from the very beginning of the movie. But what happens after the reveal is what I felt like was, it was very kid gloves at that point. And like I said, I feel like children deserve more. Even there are scary aspects of the original Snow White, and Walt Disney felt like, yeah, kids need to be scared, and he put that in his movies. Bambi, not to spoil that, but when mom gets killed, that's pretty horrific for children. But I think children can handle it, and I think children need to see stuff like that.
Well, look, I recommend it. I mean, it's for me like between a 6 and a 7, but it exceeded my expectations because I thought the trailer was not very good. I'm only, I'm mildly familiar with the franchise, but I had a very good time, and I think it exceeded my expectations from the standpoint of there's a deeper story there about child abduction, which I think is on its face incredibly dark, and I enjoyed the film. I also think it's the beginning of a franchise. I think that like a lot of what you're saying and a lot of the critiques that are going to come in from hardcore fans, those notes are going to be included in the follow-up. But I enjoyed it and I recommend it. You're saying you don't recommend.
Yeah. I mean, look, teens who are fans of the games, teens in general, I think they're going to like it. I personally just, I didn't walk away feeling like I saw something great at all.
All right, let's go to your comments and questions, starting with super chats here. Oh, wow. From Benjamin for 20.
Hey,
thank you so much, Benjamin. At the end. Oh, wait, that's, you know what?
Yeah,
that relates to Panderverse. We will come back to that. I promise you'll be our first comment there. So yes, right here from Benjamin for 10. Didn't Nick Cage just make a Chuck E. Cheese horror film last year? Yes, it's called Willy's Wonderland. It's that one is super gory. And also Nicolas Cage has no lines in the film. So look up Willy's Wonderland. That's the recommendation.
And by the way, we did a watch party with the filmmakers of Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah, the filmmakers actually came out. We were hoping, fingers crossed, to get something from Nick Cage. We did not, but there you go. Let's see. Vanguard for 499. Chris, I was rewatching saw X yesterday and tried to send an email to John Kramer email, but apparently it's been taken over by the film production. Well, actually, I was off by one number, but so were a lot of other people that emailed me. So there's a bounce back. But yeah, I was off by one number, And apparently a lot of other people were as well. But thank you for that. Benjamin coming back. Boy, Benjamin, very generous today. For 5. What's a better October horror film, Freddy's or Saw X? Well, Saw X is gorier. So if you're looking for gore, Saw X. And if you're looking for something that is lighter fare, Freddy's. So
yeah, I'm not seeing Saw X. I'd rather see Freddy's again than
so I actually recommend them both. So Zavin, who's a member for 7 months. Wow. Hail Frank Gore and Ing the Merciless. How would you rate this movie among film adaptations of the year, such as Super Mario Brothers, Barbie, etc.? Well, I'd say Barbie is probably, if you're talking about adaptations, the worst of them. Super Mario, very accurate. And I would say I'd say Super Mario is probably the most accurate. That doesn't mean, but in terms of like having fun and exceeding expectations, I would say that Five Nights at Freddy's is if that's the criteria, this was the better film for me in terms of an adaptation that was accurate and trying to serve the audience. I would say Five Nights at Freddy's. Alan, opinion about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say because the game itself, at least the first game that I played, you're just sitting at a security console, opening doors and closing doors, and and you're just constantly watching video monitors, and then when you fail, the monster shows up and kills you. And so that's a very specific video game gameplay that's hard to translate, and so you have to do it in a story like this. So I defer to my kid, and she says that they had liberties, but they pretty much got most of it. I believe this movie covers the first 3 games, from what she tells me.
Yeah. Let's go. We're gonna go. There's a lot of comments here. I don't know if I'm gonna get to all of these, but let's see. A guy in his room. Question: how are those Freddy toys scary at all? Oh, they're scary. They're scary because they show the innards of the animatronics, and it's like a Saw movie. So I think they are scary. Zero Redux, not a drop of blood in the movie. That's actually not true. There's a lot of blood. There's blood in the film. I mean, it's just not excessive. Yeah. Let's just say that. There's blood, but not excessive blood. Random Ray says Five Nights at Freddy was not bad. Not great either, but decent. Willy's Wonderland was much more entertaining. I think they're different. They're different.
Well, I think Willy's Wonderland pays off what you were expecting. That was Chuck E. Cheese characters coming to life and killing people.
Right.
This one had a much more spiritual, supernatural element to it.
Right. Solomon Thornton says, grew up playing Five Nights at Freddy's. I would play the game when my parents weren't around. And what an experience. I wish the film was rated R and more jump scares, but I enjoyed the film. Hey, Solomon, that's good to hear. I think based on the success of this, the fact that it's packing, the estimated weekend box office for this movie is upwards of 75 to 85 million for a movie that you can watch on Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pointed out by Drunk 3POJ on the Geeks and Gamers Daily that they gave away 4-month subscriptions. If you bought a pass to Hollywood Halloween Horror Nights at Universal, you got basically a 4 months free of Peacock to sign up. So a lot of people are just able to see this, yet you've got the theater was packed last night, and it like I said, it was Barbie for 15-year-old boys. They were loving it. So I think you're going to see a sequel, and I think they're going to announce that the sequel is going to be R-rated, because the audience that's seeing it now, 2 years from now, will probably be able to see an R-rated movie. Yeah. So look for them to announce a sequel, and an R-rated will be R-rated.
And I'll say this is the franchise is not just boys. Girls are into it as well.
True. Yes. Christopher Moonlight Production says, I'm taking my 17-year-old daughter for our father-daughter movie night on Saturday, and she can't wait to see it. She's a huge fan. Also, thank you for nominating The Quantum Terror for Best Horror. Yes, The Quantum Terror nominated for Best Horror. Award this. We didn't plug it this yet, but go to awardthis.com for tickets. Yeah. Congratulations, Christopher. And you're going to have fun with your daughter. You're going to definitely have fun seeing that film. Marco CCS65 says, I guess they knew their audience. That's why they toned down the gore. But also, I think you have an opportunity then to revisit this with a sequel that is R-rated, why not hook the kids in with your PG-13 and then go full gore in the next film? Just go, okay, you want an R-rated one, and then just go make it just super over the
Or
top.
better
That's
yet, do what they did with Megan. You know,
right.
have your PG-13 release, but then come back with an R-rated version.
There's an unrated version of Megan that's available, and I know a couple of the scenes that they changed, and I haven't seen the unrated version, but it sounds like some of the changes are pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, more of
That's
your
guaranteed money right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have your PG-13 and then come back again, re-release it as an R-rated.
Right. Adam Prenger for 5 says the games are only teen rated. There is no reason the movie needs to be rated R. Okay, fair enough. And Vanguard for 499. Man, I spent work time imagining a whole Saw thing for you specifically. It had a whole film theme and everything. How off were you? I'd love to send it. I don't know. Should I look at my should I check my email for John Kramer? It's the email address is, oh my God, I have 27 emails. It's John Kramer. Let me see. I'll give you the email address right now. It's John. It's Kramer John 944 at gmail.com. Kramer John 944 at gmail.com. My understanding is in the movie, it's Kramer John 994. They show it on a screen. I saw it and I just grabbed a piece of paper and in the dark scribbled it. So now you have it. I have 27 unread messages, but there's a bounce back that's in there. I think you'll find entertaining. All right, back to you. So thank you, Vanguard, for that. Let's see. Okay. A super, just a 20 euro super sticker from Gabriella Condor. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Cool. Okay. More comments here. Beerosaurus Rex says traumatized kids, says Ing the Merciless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Do that, Ing?
Why not? I mean, that's how kids get into this stuff anyways. They get traumatized. You might as well lean into it.
Gunho Max says Alan wants the kids running out of theaters and hiding in their closets. I agree. Make fright great again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tina Guzman says to Alan, the movie sounds like the Banana Splits movie. Yeah, the Banana Splits. There was the Banana Splits movie. Then there was Willy's Wonderland. And now Five Nights at Freddy's. You should watch all three in one night.
There you go.
Hey, it's the green-haired anti-liberal. How's it going? Good to chat with you. We have met. Yes, children can handle scarier stuff for sure. We've got to stop treating them like they aren't able to handle serious topics. They don't need full degeneracy, but they can handle more than SpongeBob. Well, I'll say this, the missing kids stuff got me. As a father, it got me. So, and I'm recommending the film, even though Alan isn't. I feel like you're now just counter to me now, Alan. Whatever I
That's
say.
what people want. That's what, but no, I just wanted more. I just wanted more.
All right. A few more comments here that we're going to talk about Panderverse. From Rumble, Aid Ellis 24 says, Alan, looking out for the kiddos.
That's right. Scare the hell out of them.
Patrick Lemire, too soft for Alan. Twist. Also from Rumble, Lord Shack says, I really appreciate it when Chris gets serious and points out common sense. Yeah, well, maybe in relation to the cancellation of the creator because he donated to the candidate he wanted to,
because he voted for one of two people and he didn't like the one he voted for.
I'm old enough to remember when you would vote and, oh, who are you voting for? I'm voting for so-and-so. I kind of like so-and-so. Then the election would happen. Oh, my guy won. Well, my guy didn't. Well, moving on. Let's go get some beers. But now you're an awful person if you are on political land.
That's how you voted.
Yeah. The exercising your democratic right. I'm sick of that. I'm tired of it. And I'm tired of, here's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of people that push division. Mm-hmm. There are people that push division and vilify one side of the aisle or the other. And I'm of the opinion that we're all Americans and the division is pushed by people who aren't thinking things through very clearly to where that goes. and also from elites that want us fighting amongst each other. And let me just say, and I pointed this out before. I've pointed this out before. There's an old film, and there were a series of serials that the entire thing is about keeping people divided. And this evil dictator was manipulating the Hawkmen. Were fighting, the Prince Baron and the Lizard Men were fighting other men, and all these different kingdoms of Mongo. He kept them fighting amongst each other to not reveal who the real villain is, which was Ing the Merciless.
I'm unfamiliar. I don't know who that person is.
So all I'm saying is this is a story that was written in the 1930s. Okay, Flash Gordon. It was a comic that became a serial that it was just then it became a movie serial, meaning every week you go back and there's like another 15-20 minute episode in the continuing adventures of Flash Gordon, which usually like 12 or 15 episodes. But so that is a political strategy, is to keep people divided amongst all these differences. And I find it terrible when people do that. And I find it even worse when people get sucked in to, believing that and vilifying others. And like they vilified the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's. I
don't know who you're talking about, but it's brilliant.
MK Solid 82 for 199. Ellen is dressed to enslave naked 1970s women. Well, we'll say this.
And Hawkman.
When I saw Flash Gordon, which is one of my favorite movies from when I was a kid, it was such a favorite film. We had like me and my three like best friends in high school. There was no merch from Flash Gordon at the time. Like literally they weren't prepared for it. We made in high school our own custom Flash Gordon shirts that we wore to school on Fridays. This is what nerds we were. Okay, so we're in high school, and a friend of mine, John Stankiewicz, that was his name, made like he did this sort of letter design, whatever. We took it to a printer. They were expensive because we were having custom shirts made. We took it to a place where you get like sports jerseys done, and we had them. They were expensive, and we wore them all on Fridays. And we would just quote the movie and laugh, and it was great. But
it's such an 80s film too.
I grew up in the 80s. Our kid stuff was dark, says Mr. Smith. Member for 12 months. Thank you for that. Alan, how would you rate Five Nights at Freddy's? Higher or lower than Rotten Tomatoes? 24% says Narut Tangsuk.
I know that's a weird question to ask. I mean, ultimately, it has to be my opinion. It's like I walk in, I see this movie. I do fight this idea that would audiences respond to it, and should that be my review to it? Audiences will probably respond to it. Audience definitely responded to Barbie, and I didn't like that one.
Right.
And so,
but I mean,
that's just how I feel. It's like, I believe it's going to make a lot of money, and I believe that the teens are going to go out this weekend in droves to see this movie. It still doesn't mean I didn't. Yeah, still means I didn't like it.
Well, okay, just to rephrase this question, does it deserve 24%? I mean, you're not recommending it, but not recommending it could be 50%.
I will agree. 76% of the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie wasn't meant for them.
Okay, fair point. Oh my God, the super chats are coming in fast and furious here. Frank, I seriously thought you were doing an amalgamation costume. MAGA Flash and Alan, how dare you do Asian face? Lol, says Nuak for 5.
Yeah, it looks more like Ming than actual Ming.
Well, Max von Sydow is not Asian.
I know. He's great, though. I love Max.
I love Max von Sydow.
I mean, Strange Brew.
Right. Ron C for 499. Good morning, gentlemen. Chris, I enjoyed your recommendation. Totally Killer. I thought it was hilarious. Enjoyed the 80s and brought back memories. Yeah, it was just like, look, it was fun. Totally Killer. It's on Amazon Prime Video right now. So check it out. It's a sort of twist on Back to the Future. It's Back to the Future with a female. And there's a movie we're going to review in the upcoming weeks called It's a Wonderful Knife, which is It's a Wonderful Life mixed with a serial killer, a slasher, like, Halloween, but with a woman lead. I'm not going to talk about it
Yeah.
now, but I've seen it. Saving my opinion. It's a Wonderful Knife.
It's funny, but they played that trailer and the Thanksgiving one before Dick's. And I'm like,
I
why are
can't,
they showing
I'm
me?
going to see Thanksgiving. I can't wait for that.
Why are they showing me horror movies before Dick's?
Razorburn says, I still remember the sex ray in Flash Gordon.
Flesh Gordon.
Yeah, Flesh Gordon. Oh yeah, Flesh Gordon. Bring me the boar worms. No, not the boar worms. I'll tell you this. I had a crush on Princess Aura. Forget Dale Arden. Dale Arden was too much of a goody two shoes. But I am such a fan of Flash Gordon. I bought the movie novelization when I was a kid and read it. And you found out that Dale Arden and Flash met at some retreat. He was sort of in the off season as the Jets quarterback, and she was sort of recovering from being in a bad relationship where it was implied her boyfriend took her to sex orgies. I'm not making this up. This is in the movie novelization for Flash Gordon. If you can find it, look for it. It is bizarre. And I'm actually going to be in a documentary about movie novelizations. And I read the chapter where that happens. It's hilarious. MK Solid 82 for 199. Fu Manchu would enslave hot 70s girls. Well, there you go.
I was just thinking the other day, but why can't we bring Charlie Chan back? But
yeah, why can't we?
To actually be Asian.
Right. You could actually do it with an Asian playing, because they hire, white people to play Asian parts. Yeah, that's a little, weird. Like I don't care.
Time,
that time that just felt really off. Or like John Wayne playing
Genghis Khan.
It was terrible.
In fact, there's a documentary that played at Newport Beach that goes into that entire movie, and John Wayne as Genghis Khan. And then there was Alec Guinness, who played a Chinese man. And
yeah, all of those are bad. The worst is probably Breakfast at Tiffany's. That is the worst example. Christopher Moonlight Production says there's a really great monster high cartoon called Fright On about elite monsters and humans working together to create division between the monsters so they could rule them. Kind of like our current politics or Ming. Yeah, that's true. It's elites just want people fighting over stupid stuff so we don't notice all the crap going on. Thank you, Christopher. The audience is always right. Even when they're not, they're still right. Well, I tend to believe that. One would think that Rotten Tomatoes is being paid off, says John Z. I just think that most people writing about film, review bombing, says Fräulein Sausage Ball. And a guy in his room says it's also being panned then because it's not mainstream Hollywood. It's from YouTubers and gamers. Yeah, maybe there's a bias against that. Like, I didn't notice who the YouTubers were that sort of went by me, but like, that's cool. Like, whatever, man. There's all different types of fame these days. All right. A few more super chats here.
I'll just go. It's the elitism of journalism. It's
right.
They're afraid that the average person can now report the news when the people who went to college, who got the degrees, this clout, this idea that no, we are the true journalists, and I think there's a fear that they're gonna become one day irrelevant because of YouTubers.
More comments here. Then we're gonna talk about South Park. Zodlander for 100 Swedish krona. Hi, Film Threat. Love your content. I want to watch Killers of the Flower Moon, but any movie longer than 2 hours, I would rather watch at home. I have a long distance to the movie theater. No long trips, please. My suggestion is it's going to be on Apple TV Plus in about a month. So I believe it's 45 days. So 45 days from the theatrical opening, you will be able to see it on Apple TV, which might be a better place. Like you can pause it in the middle. You can watch, you can like binge it in a day because it's 3.5 hours. So, subscribe to Apple TV Plus, which my understanding is they're doubling the price. Streaming is not making money. This is another topic. I don't want to divert too much, but it's being revealed that streaming is like the California gold rush. It's not revealing the results that were initially thought.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to subscribe to it. And you're going to see all these services, even paid, you're going to be seeing ads on content. There's just no two ways about it. People thought like, hey, I'll just get Disney Plus, then I don't need to buy any. They basically are making less money now than when streaming was introduced. And by the way, every person I've talked to who initially signed up for Disney Plus has unsubscribed because it's $149 for a year for Disney Plus. $149 for 1 year for a platform I watch a couple shows on. Not happening. Not worth it. Thank you,
so actors keep holding out for those
that money you're not gonna get.
Yeah.
But Zodlander, just watch it on Apple TV. Flash, savior of the universe, says Super Chair Destroyer for 2.
By the way, isn't Napoleon coming out on Apple TV as well?
Yes, eventually. But what Apple has committed to, and Netflix is doing the same thing, they're beginning to release their movies theatrically, like giving it a genuine chance in theaters. Also, by the way, theaters need the content. They need more movies in theaters. Next week I'm going to see The Holdovers. I was unable to see it before. We'll talk about it like a week from today. I'm going to be in Grand Rapids. By the way, I'm going to be in Grand Rapids, Michigan a week from today for Grand Rapids Comic-Con. So look for me. I'll do a social post about it. Theaters need movies. That's why they're doing concert films. You're going to see Beyonce's movie, Taylor Swift movie is still in theaters. You're going to see more things like UFC fights in theaters. Studio Ghibli does their festival where they play like a Studio Ghibli movie, like once a month there's a new Studio Ghibli film. So all those things, those help theaters, that helps bring people into theaters. And Zodlander just became a YouTube member. Check the community tab on YouTube, Zodlander. Join the Discord. The Discord is for our members of our channel. And then also look for giveaways. I think we're doing a giveaway today. When we get digital codes to give away, and so we have digital codes to Camp Hideout, which we're giving away, I think, at the end of this show today. Check the tab. I think we have 3 codes to give away. First come, first serve. Get ready and redeem those digital codes.
Yes.
There are 3.
Christopher Lloyd is in that movie, by the way.
Yeah. So we have I love to give stuff away for free because when I was a kid, I loved to get things for free. And I'm pretty much still a kid. Thank you, Zodlander. So check the tab. Chris, a John Woo DVD Tuesday would be awesome, says MK Solid 82 for $199. I don't think I did one. There are like a bunch of episodes. It's going to run to the end of the year. It's doing okay, but I have a whole bunch. I might consider doing more episodes of DVD Tuesday, but we're going to see at the end of the year. We're going to see how that performs. So one last comment here before we pivot. Benjamin for 10 says, I will see Thanksgiving too, because I sort of like Eli Roth, but I'd say it's another grift on the let's make holidays scary movie trend. In that way, I can't have much optimism. It looks fine, and I can't wait to see it. Another comment here. What about Bass Reeves' show?
Bass Reeves
show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. By the way, we nominated Corsicana, which is a Bass Reeves story, as part of the Film Threat indie thriller.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, real quick. You know what I'm going to do before we talk about Panderverse? I want to talk about this movie. You're not going to believe I saw this, but it actually is in theaters. Okay. Let me pivot. Folks. Oh my God. I didn't notice that.
Okay.
There we go. Thanks. Alan, you can read minds. I have to give Alan.
Or is it this one? Did you see?
No, that's not that one. Old Dads. We have a special guest coming on at the end of the show, Joe Lynch. We're going to talk about his horror film, Suitable Flesh. But I need to tell you about Boudica, Queen of War. Boudica, Queen of War is effectively an exploitation film about a queen whose kingdom, her family is slaughtered, and she becomes queen and leader of this tribe these tribe of barbarians that is going to challenge Rome. And she ends up training as a warrior. It's like a female Conan the Barbarian. And let me just say this. This is one of the worst movies I've seen this year. Okay. Her family gets wiped out. She's seeing the ghosts of her children who haunt her with everything that she does. She ends up becoming leader of these tribe of barbarians and goes up against modern Rome. It's some of the worst. And okay, just look up the trailer for this. It's some of the worst fighting I've ever, the worst swordsmanship. And I actually think that the lead actress of this is actually very good. Olga Kurylenko. I really like her. I've seen Olga Kurylenko and other things. She just she's not a stunt woman. She's not like, she doesn't have the skills, the fighting skills. And she did a lot of the fighting in this. And then the other thing is that was terrible about the movie was not just the fighting, and you'll see like some bad digital effects to show Rome, but also the outfits. She wears this barbarian outfit. We should show the picture of it, Alan, if you can find a photo of Olga Kurylenko as Boudica. She has this outfit. Now I'm thinking like a female barbarian. She's going to be scantily clad. No, she's wearing like a sweatshirt. She got a Kirkland brand sweatshirt she got at Costco. I am not making this up. She wears a sweatshirt through the entire thing. It's probably because she was cold. And you got to show the picture, Alan, of her in this outfit. It's sort of this feathers and fur or whatever. It looks, and she's got this eye makeup. The movie is it's just bad, super low budget. I mean, I don't know. This movie came in at it opens today. I believe it's in limited release in theaters and on video on demand. And it's just so cheesy. It's like, hey, let's make an epic story set in Roman times. I'm in, obviously, because men, all we do think about is Rome. And so I'm seeing this. I am watching this film. Loved movies like Gladiator, the R-rated cut of Caligula, I, Claudius, which I reviewed on a DVD's Day recently. Look up my review of I, Claudius, which is a British series based on a book about Claudius, the Roman emperor. So I'm a fan of the genre, but this movie clearly was hampered by having no budget. And you can tell when they're doing a lot of the fight scenes in close up to basically show you that, there's not like more than 30 people in this scene, but we're going to make it sound like it's an epic battle. So I cannot recommend this movie at all. It's just sort of it's like a 3 or a 4, but I do like Olga Kurylenko. She is fine as an actress, but they're hiding her physique too much in this movie. They kind of hide her physique, and she's wearing effectively it looks like a sweatshirt. I'm not making this up. I'm not making it up. It's just bad. And just the subject matter alone has me interested. And there you go, Alan. You dodged a bullet, and I watched Boudica, Queen of War, so you don't have to.
Again, I saw dicks. So
we'll leave it at that. Let's go to your comments real quick. There's a Red Sonja movie that was filmed during COVID and no one's talking about it. There was footage leaked during San Diego Comic-Con. No one's talking about it. We'll talk about it at some point. Thank you, Spidey Sensei 72. David Brennan, Boudica is based on UK history. I mean, I'm sure the film is shit, but at least it might have some historical roots. It does. That's not a big part of the story, though.
You're not there for history.
You're not there for a history lesson. I'm there to see hot barbarian warriors. Verbal Riot for 10. Thank you, Dante. Alan's costume is racist. Is it?
Yeah, I should have gone full yellow face for this one.
There you go. Hey, thanks, Dante.
You forget that Timothy Dalton was in
yeah, and then Benjamin here for 10. Another 100-pound lady crushing 200-pound dudes in battle. Right. I mean, that's effectively what it is, so can't recommend. And then Fräulein Sausage Ball. Chris saw booty, Alan saw dicks. That's effectively, you're right. So there you go. All right, time to pivot. Time to pivot, folks. We're going to talk about, you know what we're going to talk about, Alan. Let's talk about South Park joining the Panderverse.
Yes.
Al, I got up.
We'll talk about the real villain in
Yeah.
all this.
So I watched, this is on, by the way, this is on Paramount Plus. It is considered a special. So it's on a different platform than South Park is normally on, which I believe is Max.
Yes.
But so this is another one in the series of specials that South Park has done. They did a special on COVID, on the pandemic. They've done these specials that kind of tackle a topic. And South Park joining the Panderverse is very, very simple. Cartman is having these dreams that in another universe, everyone has been race and gender swapped. I watched it late last night. So, Alan, you saw it as well.
Yeah,
Alan, tell us the basics of it, and I want to hear your opinion before I reveal mine.
Yeah. Well, there's quite a bit going on here, not just this, but apparently a hole has been opened in the Panderverse, and characters from the various Panderverses are starting to swap with each other, especially Cartman, who in the background there is the third one from the left, second one from the right, and so Cartman has become a big black woman. And now they switch places and they're trying to figure things out. And they realize that the Panderverse has been opened up because of the actions of one person, Kathleen Kennedy. And and then at the same time, there's other things. The one thing about the episode that struck me was the phrase "I felt seen" it kept coming across in this episode because it started to talk about college and how much of a scam college is, and then how worthless people are because they can't do simple things like fix a door. And,
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we've been asking for a woke movie. I think this is about as close as we're going to get for a while, because this is very anti-woke. In fact, the cafe the restaurant they go to at the end is called City Woke, which is a Chinese restaurant. And the black server talks to one in a Chinese accent. I mean, yeah, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this episode.
Well, I enjoyed it, and then I was a little disappointed, and let me tell you why. A couple things. One, you mentioned that this episode, and first of all, there are great clips. You're going to see a lot of things clipped and posted online about this particular episode. I mean, they're all over Twitter this morning, Twitter or X, whatever. But the problem is that I feel like this didn't really lean into it. It's all a little all over the place because it's sort of kicked off where it's like no one is capable of doing anything these days. Like, simply like, doing some like household fixes, right? And the guys that are doing the household fixes suddenly become billionaires and influencers with like space. I mean, it's so this special addresses many issues at once. And the idea of gender and race swaps is just one of those ideas. It also gets into Disney and Disney stock. Bob Iger in it is hysterical. But this episode kind of wants to have it both ways. It rips on everything woke. It rips on woke culture. It rips on Disney. Like every time we keep making we make the same movie over and over again, but people don't like it now. Like we keep making the same movie, but now people don't like it. There's just all this like great the Bob Iger board meetings, and then when Cartman kind of like swaps with Kathleen Kennedy, there's like the real Kathleen Kennedy, and then Cartman kind of becomes Kathleen Kennedy, or a version, a variant, whatever you want to call it, of Kathleen Kennedy, because this is the 616B universe or whatever. So it makes fun of multiverses, the fact that college isn't worth it and ridiculous, the fact that people aren't capable of doing anything useful these days, which is really disheartening. And I would defend that a little bit because I used to work on cars and motorcycles all the time because I had a set of tools, both a set of metric tools, ratchets, and whatnot, so I could fix my British bike, but also other tools so I could change my own oil. The way that they design cars now prevent you from actually being
Yeah,
capable of.
you need a computer in your car.
You need the computer software that you connect to the car that tells you what's wrong with the car so you can fix the car properly. And if I've taken like my car to a Pep Boys instead of the dealer, it'll be slightly off. They can't perfectly do it's. It's frustrating how they make products to be obsolete. So they're only good for a couple years and they're not even worth fixing because anyways, and I have a lot of friends that will watch the show and they say, Chris, you might lecture too much on your live streams. But
we're talking about cars now. And
right. The problem with this episode is it's kind of all over the map because it's addressing the fact that Americans are incapable of doing basic repairs, right? Those skills have been lost. College is bad. Disney is bad. The gender swap thing, they just kind of mock. But then they want to have it both ways. They mock YouTube channels that make fun of race and gender swaps. Like someone even said, like,
isn't this the tradition of South Park? I mean,
right? They mock everything.
This is a 1 hour episode essentially, and so you have 3 stories going on parallel to each other, and it's one of those where in this case, it does make fun of YouTubers, but it makes more fun of the executives and wokeness than that. But you got to be able to. I think this is what we've always been saying is you got to poke at both sides.
Yeah, no, I agree because I feel like also and then the weird thing is that we talk about a lot of small indie movies, right, Alan? And those get no play. But if we just put on a thumbnail, like something very incendiary, I've had to and first of all, Glenn Brown, our producer, is amazing. He's amazing. I don't tell him what to put on the thumbnails. He just sort of watches a video and then he'll put something on the thumbnail. And it ends up, sometimes I'll have to say, like, I think that might be a little too far, right? Like, I didn't really mean that. Like, do we have to put that? Like, so I'll have him change out thumbnails generally to tune it down. But like, he's not wrong. Glenn is like, he's trying to get thumbnails. You're trying to get people's attention. You put something on the thumbnail, some text that like grabs your attention, and you'll watch like a 10 or 20 minute video of Alan and I talking about a topic or reviewing a film. So he's not, but that's what the algorithm likes. That's what gets people to click. So, but it does directly at the very end of the show, you see Cartman kind of like sum it up where it's just like, hey, this is not great. This sort of woke stuff isn't great, but also maybe just capitalizing on constantly talking about woke stuff, that may not be so great either, is effectively like the lesson at the end. So he takes a pot shot directly at, people monetizing discussion of these types of topics. So I guess that's in the end, it's a good thing. It's like fine, but I think it's kind of a cop out because I feel like even the criticism of the woke stuff is just so obvious that it's not, it could have been funnier. So I'll just say while I recommend that you see the episode, I was a little disappointed that it wasn't, it should have gone further.
Well, it's not going to go Team America. I mean,
it should have gone Team America.
It's still a TV show.
Team America classic. This episode wanted to have it both ways, and I feel like it watered down what they were trying to say. If you really look at it, it watered it down, and I feel like they should have even come harder at Disney. So
yeah,
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's South Park, and it is a TV show, and so to go further, I think, it's finally, you finally feel like someone's on your side and saying the things you want to say, because that's the thing that caught me in the first 45 minutes of this was, does Matt and Trey watch our show? Does Matt and Trey watch YouTube? Because they're saying the same things that we've been saying for a very long time. Right. And so there's that feeling of, finally someone's on our side. But then when they come back at us, it's like, all right, well, that's fair enough, and so I don't fault South Park for having done that.
We should be able to take the joke. We should be able to take the joke.
And quite frankly, the jokes against YouTubers is fairly kid gloves. You know,
Right. It's a poke.
It's a poke, yeah. Which again, we should be able to take, and which, you know, if we want both sides, if we really want this world where, you know, where we look at an issue from both sides, then we've got to be able to, you know, to take it at both ends. And that's not my Dick's review either.
That is going to get clipped. Little note to Glenn. All right, let's go to your comment.
My favorite line is Cartman Kathleen Candy, when her constant diatribe is, put a chick in it and make her gay.
Yeah. Like the thing is, like, new Indiana Jones, put a chick in it, make her gay. Like that was like every single. Yeah,
and that was about the food that they were eating at City Walk.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to admit that was probably the best thing. Put a chick in it and make her gay. Like that's like,
no, when the black server came out with a Chinese accent. I mean,
yeah. All right, let's go to your chat comments and questions here. And we have Suitable Flesh director Joe Lynch is going to be joining us on the show today. So get ready for that. We're going to talk about his film that's coming out. It's on Shudder. And I used to work with Joe at G4. He's coming out in about 10 minutes, but we're going to go longer today because we have 3 more films to review. So we're probably going to go about 20 or 30 minutes over, if you don't mind, Alan.
Sure.
Cool. Here we go. Hey, thank you for your patience, Benjamin, for 20. At the end of the special, Matt and Trey try equating Kathleen Kennedy's wokeism with Cartman's fascism, racism, and that's a false equivalency. Cartman was angry for a good reason. I don't think he and Kennedy are the same. Well, that's basically what I was pointing out, is that like this episode of the show wanted to kind of have it both ways, where it's criticizing the idea of all of the frequent race and gender swaps that I think audiences are tired of. I believe it's a valid criticism now. It's like, can we just tell some original stories that just feature new characters? I would really like to see that, you know, and it's not as if they don't exist. So, so the show kind of wants to have it two ways. And I feel like it just should have gone harder.
Yeah. But at the same time, like I said, they get it. They understand the frustration.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
More super chats.
And make her gay.
Yeah. Zodlander for 50 Swedish krona. Alan, you need a proper Swedish man to play the Asian villain. No one can beat Max. It's a reference to Max von Sydow.
I think Mads Mikkelsen will make a great.
Oh, he would be a great Ming.
Yeah.
He'd be great. Let's see. Ozzy's Robots for $9.99. Did you catch the Greg Gine auction? Crazy record prices for vintage sci-fi movies and TV show props, like the $3.2 million for the X-Wing. The new stuff will never generate this type of love and interest, in my humble opinion. I did not see that, but that's interesting.
I keep thinking about how good we had it back in the 80s and 90s.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like you look back now, it's like, wow, life was, and we were nicer to each other.
Yeah.
I think we were nicer to each other then.
Well, that's the thing that bothered me about Totally Killer was, you know, this assumption that the 80s was a bad time to grow up in. And it's like, man, we had such great stuff in the 80s.
We did. Let's see. Super Chair Destroyer for 2. Flash. He'll save everything one of us. Close enough. I knew what you meant. He'll save every one of us. Obviously, I can't sing. The Panderverse was definitely hilarious, especially every hit thrown at Kathleen Kennedy, but I found the ending a bit anticlimactic. Same. Still found it to be highly enjoyable, says Random Ray. Yeah, the ending was kind of a cop-out. It's like, this is bad, but also Cartman is bad. And people who capitalize on constantly talking about this topic are also, I think part of the frustration is Hollywood not acknowledging that this is terrible, that this is a trend that people do not like. And they go, hey, George the Giant Slayer for $119.99. And by the way, shout out to George the Giant Slayer. Subscribe to his channel. And most of you already have. He's over 100,000. This guy, George the Giant Slayer, in a year, boom, went to over 100,000 subs. Congrats to you, George. Well deserved. I watch your videos. incredible video essays. Production value is crazy and crazy good. And thank you for all your support. All hail Chris and Alan. What would you have done differently to make the Panderverse better? Think they hit woke on the head. Woke is a 4-letter word losers use to feel like winners. Love your show. Yeah, I guess I just think it could have maybe been more specific. It could have like actually, showed how Hollywood has made this sort of the default setting for everything now is to do that. But I just it felt the ending I think is really what lost me was I just felt weak. It felt like they wanted to have it both ways rather than skewering the woke stuff. They wanted to go like, well, and then there's the people that constantly talk about it. I do think that there is a thing, and we've talked about this, Alan, where I kind of feel like the people that see everything as racist, like literally you can look up traffic lights are racist, like there's an article that someone wrote about that. Stop signs are racist.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we tend to see everything through a very anti-woke, and so everything's woke. Everything's woke.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying is I don't see it as that because sometimes I'm just like, well, yes, and in spite of that, I like it. Like, I like Gen V, right? And yeah, there's a lot of woke stuff in it, but I feel like it's also mocking it and being woke at the same time.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
I can guarantee you, people are not going to like what I have to say about the Aquafina movie coming up.
Oh no. Okay. Well, we'll pivot to that after we talk, but we've got some more.
No, we'll talk about it next week, but
we're going to talk about it next week.
Okay, but let me say this about comedy in general. Comedies in general, based on great premises and then the expansion upon that premises, and almost always the ending, the most difficult thing to do is stick that ending. And I think that's what we're having here is that, it's a great premise, great setup, great expansion, but they just couldn't nail that ending. And I think that's just a problem that comedy has. And it's the great comedies that can stick that ending. And I'll point out Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I know people who love that movie, but hated it because of that ending.
Let's more comments here before our special guest. We're going to wrap up on the comments, and Joe Lynch is waiting in our digital green room. He did not expect to see Flash Gordon and Ming the Merciless today, did he? It's Halloween. It's our Halloween special. Flash, he's a miracle, says Super Chair Destroyer. A few more comments here. Random Ray, the Panderverse. Okay, yeah, we already got that one. Goober says they just asked, isn't only trashing woke stuff all the time lazy too? Yes, I agree that constantly hitting on that is also lazy. Goober, fair point. Very fair point and good criticism. Patrick Lemire says sends in 999 for a super chat, and Alan has to sing this one.
Flash, King of the Impossible.
Well, we know which one of us. I don't know which one of us is a worse at singing, me or you. Bill S. Preston Esquire. Oh, it's fine to mock all the things I mock, but I'm offended that they mock me. Fair. Yeah. First of all, I'm not offended. I'm thinking the whole thing could have gone harder.
Yeah. I love being offended, especially if it's clever.
Yes. I just think it wasn't clever enough of a knock. It was just sort of a statement. It could have been funnier. Yeah. They should have just had someone who looked just like Gary from Nerdrotic. Well, I agree with South Park there. Many of the anti-woke YouTubers become cringe at some point. I also would mock both sides, says a guy in his room. Fair. That is totally fair. Not gonna. And the last comment here, the Introspect M says, I saw a couple clips so far. I can't believe they went so direct on Disney, Iger, and Kathleen Kennedy. Well, there you go. So, yeah. I mean, look, it's worth checking out. If you have a Paramount Plus subscription, definitely worth checking out for sure. So there you go. But we have joining us today a former coworker who is it's becoming a very prolific horror film director. I've lost count of the films that Joe has directed at this point. Joining us on the show, Joe Lynch. Joe, hey, thanks for coming on the show.
I feel like I should have started with it. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun,
exactly.
dun, dun, dun. When I first tuned in, I'm like, why am I looking at Flash and Ming? But every day is a good day for Flash Gordon, I'd say, and also the Queen soundtrack.
Oh my God, I love that soundtrack. Hey, let's feature you full screen here as we get
Ooh.
into it. And Joe, hey, first of all, I got to thank you for a couple things. One, we worked together at G4 TV. You are in the Attack of the Doc documentary. You
What an honor.
and just like and on the Blu-ray is your mostly unedited interview is on the Blu-ray, and so just appreciate you being a part of that project. It was just I feel like I got people who told me stories I didn't know. So, and also like you were my fill-in. A lot of people didn't know you were when I was like couldn't do DV Tuesday. I was traveling. You would fill in for me on DV Tuesday.
That was like both terrifying and like a huge honor, because now let me back up a little bit and wax your car for a second, Chris.
Yeah.
Ever since you started Film Threat, that was honestly, it was like one of the most important elements of my filmic upbringing, both in mainstream, but mostly in independent, genre, everything, like I would have never been introduced to necromantic or chicken hawk documentaries without you.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was probably the right thing to say, but when we started working together at G4, again, I was such a huge fanboy. I was like, because I had an office, and anytime Chris Gore would like walk past, I'd be like, "Oh, Chris Gore sighting!" I was so excited. And then we started to become friendly, and I was just still to this day, I like Chris Gore. You are a huge part of my cinematic upbringing, and I thank you for that. And I'm so glad to call you a friend. And when they told me that I would be on today, I was like, oh my God, I honestly, I got a little nervous. So please bear with me.
Well, congrats on the film. But then I was trying to count the number of movies, like what's as a director that you've done, like where are you now in building your filmography?
Well, this is a perfect time for me to even like expound on my past film works for me to remember. Let's see, Wrong Turn 2, Chillerama, Knights of Badassdom, Everly, Mayhem, Point Blank, and now Suitable Flesh. So seven feature films since I started this whole thing. And what's funny is that for at least 3 or 4 of them, every time that I would make a movie, because gone are the days of 3-picture deals and development deals and bungalows and even residuals in certain respects. So anytime that I would finish a movie, I had to go back to work. I had mouths to feed and bills to pay. So thankfully G4 was always there to say, come on back. And it was such a great way to like keep the home fires burning while I made my, crappy little independent movies. And then that's where I got to work with you again with Attack of the Show. But yeah, like it's, indie films are still very tough, and you like it's not as easy as like you make a movie. And my mom to this day still thinks like, Joey, you made one movie, where's your Porsche, where's your big mansion in the Hollywood Hills? That doesn't happen anymore. But if you love what you do and you still like enjoy the process of making films, it keeps you going every day, even when you have to take those side jobs to pay the bills.
Well, very few of my indie filmmaker friends have butlers. That's what I like to say. It's just, but look, this, and shout out to Knights of Badassdom. Oh man, that movie, so great.
Well, we could spend an entire like section on that and when the nightmare that was that production. But it's one of the movies that I hate to poo-poo anymore, because I did for so long, because it was a really hard shoot. The film got taken away from me. We found out it was a Ponzi scheme at one point. But oh yeah, dude, it was like, when we're offline or maybe for another time, I'll take you through the adventure of Knights of Badassdom.
Was it a producer situation?
It was a financier situation. It was this company that like made everyone think that they were putting in all this money for the greater good. And long story short, when I was told we had like 7 million, we actually had 1 million. So even something as like stupid as like, I want to go over there to shoot, they'd go, sorry, we don't have the money for it. I'm like, what? How? Look at this cast. It was an unbelievably hard experience that I think would have broken most filmmakers. But when the movie comes out, it's not yours anymore. And as much as I would love to like take people aside when they go, "Oh, dude, I saw Knights of Badassdom on the street," like, give me 45 minutes. Let me tell you exactly what happened. You can't dissuade someone's subjective opinion on what they think a movie is. I had an experience with Don Coscarelli, who directed The Beastmaster, right? One of my favorite movies of the 80s, right? I'd watch it every day on HBO, every other day on HBO. The other day it would be Brainstorm, but Beastmaster would almost be on. And I met him and we became friends, and I started doing the same thing. Like, dude, Beastmaster's my favorite movie. And then he went on to tell me exactly everything that I went through on Knights of Badassdom, how the cut was taken away. It was a beyond difficult shoot. He didn't have any control. And then ultimately the movie that went out wasn't his, but people love it around the world. So it was a very valuable lesson that I learned, where when someone says that they love your movie, you take it in stride and you say, "Thank you very much. I'm so glad that you watched it."
Well,
so thank you, Chris.
But I will tell you, just like knowing so many indie filmmakers over the years, that sometimes the story behind the making of the movie is better than the movie sometimes, because it's such crazy. And I do have an affection for and movies about the movie business. Like, one of my all-time favorites is The Player. I'd love to do a remake of that, but set it present day and have it all be about Marvel movies, right? Like, there's a way to do it. And I live in Pasadena, which is where the Rialto Theater is, where the murder took place. Griffin, oh my God, so great. That theater now is turned into a church. They turned it into a church, but
it should be the Church of Cinema. I don't know what happened there.
I remember seeing Amelie there and other films
wow.
So great, that theater. So it is what it is. But tell us about Suitable Flesh, which is based on an H.P. Lovecraft story, and it's out. Is it out today?
It is out as we speak in theaters and on VOD. So if you can't make it to a theater, you can't cuddle up to a loved one in the theater and maybe get kicked out because you got too horny. You can take it home. You can go home and you can watch it on your couch with a bottle of wine and a couple friends, maybe a loved one. Start an orgy. It would be great. But yeah, the movie is it's Suitable Flesh. It's based on an H.P. Lovecraft story, like you said, but it's also a loving homage to the original director of the film, who had started the process of making it, and that was Stuart Gordon, who directed Reanimator, From Beyond, Dagon, Castle Freak, a multitude of other movies. But he was one of the masters at cracking the code at creating modern Lovecraft. And unfortunately, when he was first developing the script with Dennis Paoli, who was his constant H.P. Lovecraft adapter, and Brian Usna and a lot of the cast, we lost him in 2020. And then I got the call 2 months later from Barbara Crampton, who has now become, not just an amazing actor, but she's always been an amazing actor, but she's now a very prolific producer. And she reached out to me and said, "Would you be interested in doing this?" And now, as a huge Stuart Gordon fan and having become friends with him, I got to talk to him about the original story and how he was making this movie, which was originally called The Thing of the Doorstep. So just as a fanboy, I was like, oh my God. And this moment kind of felt like, for me, a little bit like the Kubrick Spielberg dynamic with AI, maybe without the weird ending that Spielberg kind of tacked on. But that baton passing was both really exciting, but it was a lot of pressure. And hopefully people, when they watch it, they at least see that we were paying enough respects to what Stuart was doing. But also, if you know Reanimator and From Beyond especially, there are enough connections in those movies. I almost like to say that Suitable Flesh is a spiritual sequel to Reanimator, because it takes place in the same hospital 40 years later. There's a couple characters that show up that are similar to those who were in Reanimator. There's a lot of the same kind of tones and even shots from Reanimator that we tried to lovingly recreate. So this was our way of kind of opening up this Miskatonic verse, if you will, one that I would love more people, including myself, to be able to tell other Lovecraft stories in.
Well, the other thing I have to, first of all, the movie's bloody gory, for sure. It's bloody gory. And I have to compliment you. Heather Graham looks so good. I mean, of course, like everyone, like a lot of people, in Boogie Nights, she plays Roller Girl. And how is she even more attractive now than her debut. And not only that, and look, we just got to cut to the chase. There are several sex scenes in these movies, in this movie, and the sex scenes they're part of the story. This isn't like something gratuitous where the sex scenes have this whole other layer to it because of things that happen in the film. I don't want to ruin anything. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a reason that these sex scenes are more meaningful when you know what's happening. And Heather Graham gets very naked in this. You did not hold back. And not just that, one of the best horror posters I've seen this year is for your film, which was so cool. We put it on the Film Threat Instagram because it looks like this classic horror movie from back in the day, like from the 80s. So check out the Suitable Flesh trailer in addition to a trailer and a poster in addition to the movie. But working with Heather Graham and it's a weird thing, we've talked about this, like films that sort of should have nudity and don't, or like movies where, it's weird how I feel like nudity to me is when used right in horror. And I feel like you used it right in this. What was it like to direct those scenes? Was that a conversation? I also know that when you're dealing with SAG actors, if there's any nudity in the movie, whether an actor is a part of it or not, all actors need to know that the film will have nude scenes. How do you go about that? Can you explain maybe in a in like more of a clinical way as a director, how you approach those doing those scenes so that the actors feel
Yeah. So you basically gave me 17 questions. I'm going to try to answer them all very, very quickly. Classic gore. Okay, really quick. The poster was done by Creepy Duck Design, who does these amazing posters. If you follow him on Instagram, that's how I found him. He's now working on Evil Dead Rise and Scream 6. But we reached out to him to do the poster, and he did a fantastic job. I wanted the poster to kind of emulate those 80s films, but also the kind of VHS boxes that you would see, which is most of the movies that I was inspired by. Heather Graham, you could put her in a burlap sack, and she would be absolutely stunning. I firmly believe that she and Barbara Crampton have portraits like Dorian Gray up in their attic somewhere, and they just do not age, and the camera just continues to love them. But when it comes to the sex scenes, like you were saying, Chris, a lot of the films that we were emulating in this were a lot of the erotic thrillers from like the 80s and 90s, but also a lot of film noir from the 40s. And anytime that there's any sexual relations in that, sex scenes, nudity, any of that stuff, it feels like if you don't have them tethered to the story or the character, if there's no consequence behind them, then it's just a bunch of sexy dissolves and backlit shots and shots close up of people's hands clenching together, and then it fades to black, and there's no consequence. And this was a story that, like, from the script, I knew that sex was going to be a driving force in the story itself. We even had one actor, a big actor, who was like interested, but they said, cut out all the sex. And I'm like, well, then you don't have the story. But I also knew that I had to treat the sex respectably, and make it titillating, make it, sensual and erotic. But also, especially in this day and age, you have to make sure that everybody is consensual, everyone is comfortable. We get this question asked a lot, in the age of intimacy coordinators. We didn't have an intimacy coordinator on this, but not by force, but by choice. We went to every one of the actors and said, do you want someone on set? We want to make sure that you're protected. Now, before I even asked this, I had reached out to every single actor privately, but also all their reps, their lawyers, their agents, every one of their team, with a 32-page document on exactly how I was going to shoot it, exactly where I was going to put the camera. I did storyboards for every single scene, which constituted me and my partner like taking pictures of ourselves and drawing over them, making sure that there was like enough butt crack or enough under boob. And, so when the actors, even before they got to set or they got to where we were shooting, there was no questions. There was all complete like communication and collaboration between everybody. So, there was no like sneaky director sticking a camera between someone's legs and going like, I didn't know it was there. Or it's like, oh, come on, this is what the audience wants. Those days are gone, and they should have never been there. And, it's a great thing that the Me Too movement happened, and that the rise of pure consent in these films has culminated in a different workflow and a different environment, which I think has dissuaded filmmakers from doing it, because it's not easy. Honestly, when you're on set and you got Phil the Grip sitting in the corner eating a sandwich, watching what's going on, not very sexy for the actors to be able to create something that is supposed to be hot and sexy when everybody's standing around you. So it was always closed sets. It was complete communication with my actors, and making sure that they knew how I was going to shoot it, why I was shooting it, the reason why. And in the end, we made it so much fun for them that they were like, let's go. And I think a lot of that shows up on screen.
Yes, Heather Graham goes she's great. It just it reminded me like how really good she is. So and it's a big part of the story. I'll say this, the chat is on fire with questions for you, so I don't know how long you can stick around.
Let's do it. Let's go.
A lot of questions. We're going to start with our super chats here. Matthew Hammond for 499 says, didn't Monty Python and the Holy Grail end the way it did because they ran out of money?
Well, unfortunately, I was not on the set for that film, and I don't have Terry Gilliam on speed dial. You know what? But the thing is, necessity breeds invention a lot of times.
Right.
In terms of like Knights of Badassdom, the ending the way it is, which is this like Animal House title crawl that says like, well, this is what happened to Gunther, and this is what happened to that character. That was not the ending at all. That was not because of money. That was because the financier decided, well, maybe they did run out of money, or maybe it was the 7 lawsuits that were up against them. They just decided to slap something on there and then just kind of send it out into the ether, and then let the chips fall where they may. That's not how it happened. But a lot of times, like when you run out of money, I tend to and full disclosure, this is the lowest budget film that I've done with the shortest amount of time. I had just come off of a big budget Netflix movie, but I will say that the amount of creative freedom that I had on this film was the reason why I was able to kind of get away with the stuff that I was able to get away with, and not have too many cooks in the kitchen kind of going like, do you really need that spinning shot? Or do we really need to hold on that shot from the backup camera? None of that happened. But at the same time, you have to, when you don't have the money, you have to rely on your crew, but mostly you have to rely on yourself to come up with creative problem solving ways of making everything happen. Our final day on the set was 18 hours. It was our final day. It was the ending of the film in the big hallway. And we had basically run out of time. We had no more money to like extend the day. So we had to completely reconfigure how I was going to shoot it in a way that would be able to tell the story, get all the character beats, get all the gore, get everything in there. So it's just a matter of making sure that you are as efficient as possible and respectable to the money. And then when, problems arise, which there are many for all you filmmakers out there, there's always going to be a problem that arises. The weather sucks, the actor didn't show up, the camera's not working, whatever it is, you have to be there to problem solve in the best way possible.
Let's see. We have over 600 people watching live, so there's a lot of questions. We'll get through as many as we can. All Twisted Up says, Joe Lynch, big fan, got addicted to Holliston, wish there were more seasons.
That's Me awesome. Too. I wish. I'm actually in Ariscope right now, Adam Green's production office. That's what all this right here is. If you can see, there's a, there it is. There's a Holliston poster right there from season 2 right there. But yeah, I loved that show. I loved being a part of it. I wish there were more seasons. We never say never. Look, if fucking Frasier can be, coming back, you never know these days. So we'll see. But thank you very much for watching it.
Let's see. Goober asks, hey, oh, cool. I had this lined up to check out. How did you find working with Scream Queen Barbara Crampton?
Well, I was introduced to Barbara Crampton thanks to Reanimator. I think a lot of people were introduced to Barbara Crampton thanks to Reanimator and From Beyond. Maybe the cameo she had in Body Double. But she's been a veritable force in the genre for years. And then she very smartly kind of got out of the business for a little while, but then got pulled back in like Godfather 3. And then she's been, such a huge inspiration and influence and a part of this genre. When it came to working with her, she reached out to me before I even knew, we knew each other, but she's the one who reached out to me. Supposedly, and I'm going to put this as legend, supposedly Stuart Gordon had mentioned, my name when she had asked who you would want to work with. I think he said David Lynch, but we'll print the legend. But and that was right during the pandemic. I was about to go shoot the 2 episodes of Creepshow, and we were looking for a kind of older, kind of curmudgeon-y landlord. And when I started talking to Barbara, I was like, you know what? I could actually cast her in Creepshow and show her as a producer, but also work with her as an actor to show her that I can make my days, be responsible. I knew what the hell I was doing. So the first time that I worked with her was on Creepshow, and one of the best times I've ever had working with an actor was on that. Like the first day that we wrapped, she was just like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to make the movie with you." And I'm like, "Oh, good, I've passed the test." Then working with her on Suitable Flesh, I mean, watching this actor / producer on set is amazing, because we would have a 32-page day sometimes with her and Judah in a basement, and they're doing multiple scenes together, and Barbara is just giving it her all. And then the second we call cut, she's like, "Okay, so let's make sure that lunch is here. Did the trailer come? Is everybody good? Are you guys good?" Like, she would put her producer hat on immediately. It was a sight to behold. So any chance that anyone gets to work with Barbara Crampton on either side of the screen is an absolute blessing.
That's great. Let's see, from Razorburn, a question. Joe, what was it like working with Henry Rollins in Wrong Turn 2? I'm a huge fan of Black Flag and the Rollins Band.
Well, I am the biggest Rollins fan. I was before I made Wrong Turn 2. And when I got the chance to make that movie, even when I read the script, it said, like, the description of the character was like, R. Lee Ermey in Full Metal Jacket meets Jeff Probst in Survivor. And for some reason I went, "Oh my God, that's like a Henry Rollins type. We'd never be able to get him." And then my casting agent, Nancy Nair's like, "Why don't we just call him?" We called him up, and he read it, and he went, "That sounds great." And having that guy on a set, he's got the best stories on set. It's amazing, the kind of breadth of tales that he's got, both on his music side, on his movie side. I couldn't stop talking about Johnny Mnemonic or The Chase. But his work ethic is so fantastic, where I would go up to him, it's still Rollins, and he's got that piercing stare. He's just like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm like, "So Henry, I was thinking maybe we could maybe get another take if we can put the camera over here." He's like, "Okay, you want this, you want that, you want this, copy that." And he would do it. And he actually, and I'll keep this very short, he actually pushed himself so hard that he got injured on set. He's always had a bit of a bum knee. And then he's like, "Wait, you're not going to use the stunt double for my fight with that hillbilly mutant. I'm doing that." I'm like, "Yes, you are. Sounds great." So he put himself through the rigor of that, and he kind of hurt his knee. And we were like, "Fuck, man, like we have a lot of stuff to do. We can't lose you, but we also want to make sure that you're okay." And so my producer comes up to me and goes, "Maybe we should what do you think about maybe asking Henry if he wants a massage?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to be the one to ask Henry Rollins if he wants a massage. Why don't you?" And so the producer like sidles up next to him at craft service, and Henry's sitting there eating bananas or whatever healthy snack he could possibly have. And he's like, "So Henry, would you could the production help you out and maybe give you a massage?" He goes, "I don't do massages," and then walks away.
Oh my God.
The man, he's the man, the myth. Henry Rollins is amazing.
Oh my God. So, I actually got to work with him on a TV show called Ultimate Film Fanatic for IFC. He was one of it. It was it's basically like American Idol, but like for film nerds. So we did 2 seasons of it at IFC. He was in the first season. He was so good. And Tatum O'Neal was on that. It was Tatum O'Neal.
Oh, wow.
And Keith David. So, oh my God. Yeah. From The Thing, among other great things. He's good in everything. But like, so that was the panel. You can find clips on YouTube. Henry Rollins worked with him. He was the coolest guy because he knew Film Threat. And I was like, I grew up listening to your music. Like I had Black Flag albums, like, on vinyl in the 80s. And worked with him on it. He was the coolest guy, such a professional, like always cared. And the thing is this, he got a job at IFC doing a talk show because of that first season of Ultimate.
That was why.
That was why, because he was on it, and the
Wow.
executives loved him. I remember it was Mike Ruggiero and Evan Shapiro, and they were just like so blown away because Henry, here's what, and this isn't going to surprise you. He took everything so seriously of what he was doing.
Yep.
Like he was judging these film nerds, you know, in this, I mean, yes, it was like a cheesy sort of competition thing, but he took everything with the deadly seriousness, and he would learn a lot. It was just like great, like between set, like, cause I couldn't talk to the contestants. So I would talk to the panel, and he was always the one I went to. And it was so great to check. He's just like a great person. He's the same on screen and off camera. Yep. Just like an amazing human being.
Well, I gotta tell you my Henry Rollins story.
Please.
Yeah, because Black Flag performed many times at my grandfather's restaurant during the Chinatown Punk Wars.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so they were a big staple at our restaurant.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Joe, there's 600 people watching live. We have a lot.
Please,
you let me know when you need to go. But
bring it on. Keep going.
Okay,
I'm telling my PR guy to give us a little more time if that's
okay. Cool.
So yes, please, let's
Solomon
go.
Pertinez, greetings, Sir Joe. Love the Metallica Rid the Lightning poster in the background. Any advice for any advice for beginning filmmakers?
I would be asking this question to all of my heroes when I was starting out, and a lot of times, you know, when you ask that question, it's always like, you know, never give up and, you know, go always get that script. I would say now more than ever, there is such a wonderful cachet of resources that are at your fingertips. When I started out, I didn't have a film camera. I didn't have an editing suite. I didn't have, you know, other than my family and my friends to be actors in it. I didn't have social media to put out like the word that I needed that kind of talent. Right now you have, and I know this sounds like a cliche because everybody says it, but it's true. You have a phone that has HD. You have, Premiere Pro that you can download on your laptop. You can, put the word out to anybody out there, maybe within your location that you need help, on both sides of the camera. There is such a wonderful array of tools that you can use to be able to realize whatever idea you have, as long as you have that idea. So the first thing is have an idea, whether it's short form, long form, whatever. I would honestly say, a lot of filmmakers in the last 10 years have gotten jobs off of that brilliant idea that they came up with at their house. They shot their wife laying in bed and a spooky monster pops up. And the next thing you know, you have, a studio making Lights Out, so, and then you're making superhero movies. So just don't let the limitations of what you think gets a movie made to stop you, because and this is something that I learned from all the filmmakers that Chris covered in Film Threat all the way back in the day. People forget, like, Todd Phillips started out as this rinky-dink guy from NYU who was chasing around Gigi Allen and making it on no money, and now he's one of the biggest filmmakers in the world. We all start somewhere, and it's not a bad thing to start in the gutter a little bit. And when it comes to just having what you need to make that idea possible, it is right in your pocket, or it's right on the screen.
I couldn't agree more. And Todd Phillips, like, just to see his success with Joker, I can't wait for Joker 2. I know it's going to be good.
Oh, me too.
I know it's going to be good. A $20 super chat came in from someone I think you might know. Corn Emperor for 20 says,
"Oh yeah,
I loved watching Suitable Flesh with you and Scary Perry. The kills were badass, especially that one. Love that you're at Aeroscope. It's the movie Crypt. A hint on what's in your eyesight as your next movie."
Well, very good and very nice to see you, Corn Emperor, again. Thank you so much for coming out to the Collider screening last week, and I really appreciate it. When it comes to the next film, honestly, I have not been able to think that far ahead. I can't think past tomorrow. Because of the strike, I've had to do all the press, which has been a blast being able to talk to you guys, but it's been exhausting. Since we premiered at Tribeca, it's been kind of all me doing the dog and pony show, and I'm sure everyone's sick of me at this point. But I've had to kind of take the mantle and run with it because someone has to. So in terms of next movies, there's 2 scripts that I'm working on now. There's been a lot of talk about like a possible sequel for Suitable Flesh, which is really exciting, or prequel. Who knows? If you see the movie, you kind of get what I'm talking about. So there's a lot of possibilities there. There's one script that is very much in the horror wheelhouse. Like I've been delving out of the horror realm. I mean, I'm never out. You know, I'm never like fully out. All the films that I've made have a semblance of horror in them. Everything from, you know, Nights of Badassdom to Everly and Mayhem, even Point Blank to a degree. So I can't fully leave it, but Suitable Flesh was such a welcome return for me to the genre that I love, that I started out with, that I've always been a champion of. So there's one script that is very ensconced in the horror world that I would even call maybe a heavy metal nightmare. That's all I'm going to say. But then there's another one that's based on one of my favorite authors' short stories. I'm not going to say who, but if you know me well enough, you know who I'm talking about, that I've been developing for years with my writing partner. And it is so far removed from what you would expect from me. But at the same time, like, as much as I love horror and I love all these opportunities that I've had, you know, Stuart Gordon was one of those directors that taught me never stay in one box. You know, if you look at Stuart's work, you know, yes, you can look at Reanimator and From Beyond and Dolls, but you can also look at the fact that he wrote Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He made Space Truckers. You know, he did this crime thriller, King of the Ants. You know, he made the like a kind of weird horror thriller called Stuck. He's never been like, he was never more prolific than in his own work, and he does stuff on the stage. So I want to always be pivoting as much as possible, because that's just exciting to me. I never want to make something over again. I never want to do the same thing twice in most cases. That was part of the reason why I wanted to do Suitable Flesh, because I'd never done a Lovecraft adaptation. I've never done an erotic thriller. I've had sex in my movies before. That sounded wrong. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
I've had sex scenes in my films, but never to the degree like this. So this was something of a really great challenge. So I'm always going to look for something that is going to challenge me. And those next two projects that I'm, you know, working on now, those will definitely challenge me for sure.
How much more time do we have you? Because I know you're getting
10, 15 more minutes, unless like you're done. Kick me the
Oh, no. We just the questions are
They're
a
rolling.
lot. So let's get through. Let's see. From Rumble, because we're live on Rumble, Adel is 24S. How does Joe decide on his Hitchcock-esque cameo in each of his films? Okay.
Okay. So long story short, my cameos are purely by necessity. Every single one of them. I've, you know, and I don't know if Hitchcock was like that too. I think he would just kind of go like, oh, I need to walk through this, you know, this shot. That was a terrible Hitchcock. My involvement in all of my films, from Everly and Mayhem, those were because we ran out of English speaking like Americans who could be in it, because it was supposed to be in America, but we shot it in Serbia. So when we ran out of people that could speak English without an accent, I show up. In Point Blank, the reason why I'm in that one was to piss off my my actor Frank Grillo, because we didn't get along at all. So he loved seeing me in the shot. I actually didn't tell him that I was going to be in the scene. So when he walked out and opened the door, he slammed it again and went, "Why the fuck is Joe Lynch in the shot?" And the reason why I was because the guy that was supposed to play the cameraman didn't show up, and we had to wrap out that day, and we had a whole scene with this guy, and I knew that if I put myself in this film, like in this part, that you can't cut it out. It's a major plot point. So as like a fun little way of kind of getting back at Frank, I went, I'm going to put myself in the in the scene, and they couldn't cut it out, which was great. The reason why I'm in Suitable Flesh and my luxurious mustache is I have a tradition on every one of the films that I do, is that I grow a big burly beard. So I'm looking like Mad Dog Morgan or, you know, Gandalf or whatever by the end. And then on the last day, I shave it all off and I leave a porn stash, because look, whenever you're making a movie, you know, everyone is just exhausted by the end. As you know, as great and, you know, as you know, fun as it can be, and everyone's like part of a family by the end, we're all dead tired. We're ready to wrap. And when you walk on set with a porn stash, the vibe on set gets a lot more fun again, because everyone's kind of making fun of you and going like, "Hey, look, it's John Holmes." And it really does work. Every film I've done, you know, maybe even from, I think, Wrong Turn 2, it worked like a charm. Well, The day that I walked on set with my rap day porn stash was the day that do you guys know Jonah Ray?
Of course I know Jonah.
Okay.
He
So
also worked at
Jonah,
G4.
exactly. So
Yeah.
Jonah is a good friend of mine, and he wanted to be in the movie, and we're like, of course you can be in the movie. And the only part that I had for him was this orderly that kind of bookends the beginning and the end of the film. And Jonah, as we all know, is like 8'2". So
Yes.
I wanted him to be one of the orderlies. I had all these shots set up where the orderlies were going to be behind Barbara at all times, and I wanted a little bit of Kubrickian symmetry. Well, the local that we cast to play the other orderly, no one checked his height. So when he showed up on the day, he literally walks up and he's like, "Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm here to be in the show." He was like 4'8". And I'm like, well, there goes all my Kubrick shots. So immediately I go, hold on one second. Wait, just, excuse me. So good to have you here. Hold on one moment. I run to wardrobe. I go, do you have any more orderly costumes? And they're like, yes. I'm like, great. So then I run back and I go, hey, what's going on? So good to have you here. Listen, so, I was thinking when you first walked in, I kind of got this vibe that you're less of an orderly and more of a doctor. How do you feel about playing a doctor in this? He's like, that sounds great. And that's why, so that actor ended up playing one of the doctors that brings the paddles in early on. And I had to play, because of my symmetry or whatever, I ended up playing the orderly that he was going to play. So that whole day, that 18-hour day, I would have to, sometimes in the same shot, I would, someone else would have to call action. I would walk on, and now I have my glasses off because I didn't know I would need contacts that day. So I am completely blind in all of the shots you see me in. Then in the master, after I walk out, I even deliberately told Barbara to kick us out so that I could go back outside, put on my glasses, grab the video monitor, and play the rest of the scene as director. It was a nightmare. So long story short, every cameo I'm in is purely out of necessity.
More comments here, and I know your time's limited, so we'll get through.
No, we're all good.
Caveat Ties as a supporter for $2 says, I've heard the weird ending in AI was actually Kubrick's idea, and some wanted to change it, but Spielberg wanted to stay faithful and keep it. It's interesting. And then
it's interesting. What's funny though is that I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Anytime that I've watched AI since I saw it in the theater, and I remember the moment at the end, spoiler alert, when it goes down into the ocean and then it pulls away. I'm like, the perfect Kubrick ending. And then it goes into that next 10, 15 minutes. You're like, oh, God damn it. And I hate to say it, but it felt very Spielbergian, but maybe not in the best way for that movie. Pro tip, anytime you watch AI, trust me, turn it off right at that moment when the camera's pulling out, and you'll feel like you got a very faithful Kubrickian adaptation.
Yes. Let's see another question here. What was the thought process behind premiering this at Tribeca first from A-Dallas24?
Well, it wasn't really a choice. It was more that we weren't finished with the movie in time for, definitely wasn't ready in time for Sundance, and it definitely wasn't going to be ready in time for South by Southwest. Actually, it might have been, but we would have rushed stuff like the mix and the color timing. It would have just been like very rushed version of that, and I didn't want to do that. I like, sometimes first impressions are so important, especially with your premiere. And I felt like, we have to wait, like I don't want to have our first impression be, oh, the movie looked like crap. It's like, I know we already get that from some people, not realizing that was kind of the intention, to make it look like an erotic thriller from the 80s and 90s. Some people don't jive with that, but I wanted to make sure that it was like done. So with Tribeca, and I'm from New York. So, the chance to be able to play in your hometown with my family showing up. My mom sat behind me the whole time during the premiere and goes, Joey, there's so much sex in this. I'm like, Mom, that's how I was created. Deal with it. Like, what are you going to do? So Tribeca was honestly, it was the perfect place for it, because they have a good balance between more mainstream independent films and also genre. And they had just started a new kind of faction of the festival called Escape from Tribeca, with these amazing programmers that were programming really great genre stuff. So to be able to be part of that just felt like the right kickoff for us, and the response was great.
Cool. Just a couple more comments here real quick, and we'll let you go. But The Nerd Far Away asks, "Hail, Mr. Lynch. Maybe this may be a difficult question. Do you think non-union actors deserve the same opportunity as union actors?" So more of a business question.
Yeah, interesting question. I think everybody deserves an opportunity, whether it's union or non-union. I've worked with both, in the past. Right now, tricky question, just because of the strike. And as someone who supports the SAG strike just as much as I support, our dealings with the Writers Guild and also Directors Guild in trying to be fair and balanced. Right now, I'd say Mr. Nerd Fart Away. I just called him Nerd Fart Away. I don't know if you can use that if you like. I would say, it really depends on the production. If it's an independent production that is completely non-union, then pursue those. I think in the end, you're going to want to be SAG to be able to work on some of the bigger opportunities. So, just be careful with how you're, picking your opportunities in this very, very difficult time. And then once, look, the strike is going to end, hopefully very soon. Of course, right after we get released and I have all my actors going, I want to talk about the movie. I'm like, yeah, you can't, don't get in trouble.
Right.
So it's just it's a very interesting time right now, but I'd say take the opportunities where you may for now, if it's not going to cause any detriment later on. And then hopefully when you do get your SAG card and you get those union opportunities, I'll see you on set.
That's awesome. And two comments that relate. Zodlander asks, "Where is suitable flesh available for viewing?" And Kara says, "Will it be possible to see it in Europe?" So how can people
All right,
see
so right now, as of October 27th, you can see it in the theaters on the big screen. If you follow me on Instagram or on Twitter or X or whatever the hell we're calling it these days, I have a whole listing of all the theaters that are playing it. It's also, if there's not a theater near you playing it, it's also on VOD, everything from Apple to Amazon to Vudu, Spectrum. If you just look it up on your favorite and preferred viewing platform for VOD, it should be on there. It's also going to be on Shudder in January, but also it's going to be, because we love physical media, it's going to be on Blu-ray, I believe, January 9th, with a plethora, for you Three Amigos fans out there, a plethora of special features on there as well. So, and then when it comes to Europe, I believe right now it's only playing in the UK. It's still doing a bunch of festivals, or as we've been calling it on its Fleshtival tour. It's still doing a bunch of festivals in Europe. I'd say stay tuned, follow me if you need anything, like in terms of more details. But I do believe that it is, as of today, also playing in the UK in cinemas and VOD.
Yeah, it is in the UK today.
And last minute super chat came in from Ozzy's Robots for two. "With the 80s aesthetics, are you constrained by modernity?" I don't think there's anything. I think this comes up a lot, like on the show, is like, is a movie, sometimes movies get a little too lectury, or people feel that like a film is too, as they say, woke, right? And it's like, and so like, did you feel, I having seen the film, I don't think that the film feels very timeless to me, the way you approached it. I mean, just as from putting on my critic hat and looking at your movie, it's timeless. You made it to kind of just like, you can watch this movie 10 years from now. You could watch it. You could have seen it 20 years ago. And there's nothing that sort of roots it in any sort of in that way. But do you feel that at all? Like, and just also knowing your work, I just don't think that's something that crosses your mind. You like classic horror,
Yeah,
the rest of us.
yeah, and a lot of the influences for this film were, not just Stuart Gordon, but the films of Brian De Palma and Paul Verhoeven, David Cronenberg, David Lynch, Claire Denis. A lot of these provocateurs that made cinema, and also films of the 80s and 90s, the Skinemax movies or the film noir movies from like the 90s. And a lot of those films, you could take a lot of the stories and even the characters and displace them and put them in other times, other than maybe the use of a cell phone. And obviously there's a certain backup camera scene that I probably wouldn't have been able to do if this was 15 years ago. So other than that use of technology as part of the story, I don't think there's anything in this that would constitute it being of its time. That when you're talking about the themes and also about just the thoughts about sex in our popular culture these days, there was that study that came out recently and said like kids don't like sex in movies. I'm like, well, maybe it's because they just haven't had it in their films. I mean, we're dealing with a marketplace, especially in the studios, that is dealing with 4-quadrant, a lot of IPs that you can't just immediately inject. You can't have Kylo Ren, having sex with with anybody in any Star Wars movie, other than the boys.
Unless it's directed by Axel Braun, and then that's.
I would, yeah, that the Star Wars parody stuff that does not count, Chris. Get out of here. But a lot of studios are shying away from that, not just because of like what I was talking about before with the ramifications of having to shoot sex and sexuality on film, which can be very difficult, and some people don't want to deal with that. But IPs and so these 4-quadrant movies that are trying to satisfy so many people, sometimes though that sex kind of gets in the way of that. Gone are the days, or at least they mostly are gone, of the mid-budget adult films that studios produced back in the 80s and 90s, and even maybe like 10, 15 years ago. Those have been weaning as of late. Maybe, every once in a while you'll get David Fincher to be able to get away with something like that. But, for the most part, it's been really tough to put that out there. When it came to the wokeness that we were dealing with, again, I've always felt like it's always good to push a few buttons when you're making a movie, and some people are not going to like it. Some people are. I know that there's some that like really did not like the sex in this, and to each their own. Like I can't help what baggage someone brings to whatever they watch, my films, any other film, what have you. But I knew that I would be serving a certain audience that might be a little thirsty for this type of movie, that might have not seen something like this in a while, that sit there and go, what I'm missing sexy sax from movies. Well, we're here to provide that. So,
well, and one last comment here from All Twisted Up says there's a screening and Q&A tonight in LA at the Draft House. Is that happening? You're going to be there?
That is, yes, I will be there tonight for both the 6:15 and the 8:15 show. My good friend Ali Goetz is going to be there for it. She's going to be doing the moderating there. Then I'm going to be doing another Q&A at the Alamo Draft House at 6:15. That's going to be moderated by Rebecca McKendry, the director of Glorious and many various other projects. And I would say if you ever wanted to see me in a very interesting Halloween costume, because I'm going to be literally going from that Q&A to a Halloween party, show up for the 6:15. You'll see another side of Joe Lynch you might never have seen before.
Are you going to play a Hawkman from Flash Gordon? You got to post pictures on Instagram for us. Please post some photos.
Oh, I will. Don't worry. I will definitely be posting it. Yeah.
Good. Joe, thank you so much for spending time with us and answering questions from me and the audience. Congratulations on Suitable Flesh and the big Fleshtival rollout. And one last thing, we are talking about doing a watch party for Attack of the Doc. I'd love to have you join us sometime in December. We're going to get everybody.
Yes, I would love that.
You like a bunch of people who are in the movie and other people involved with G4. We're going to watch Attack of the Doc and then comment on it. I mean, one of the things is I interviewed everybody for about an hour to 2 hours, and it just sort of like crushed me to go like, well, we got 5 minutes of Joe Lynch talking in the film. So love to do a watch party where we watch the film, more comments. So I'll reach out to you when we get ready to do that. But Joe, you're real. You're someone I've known forever, having, met you at G4 and just being in the industry. And I just appreciate that you're real and no BS, and your heart being in indie film and horror. I just love it. And just hope you'll come back and talk to us when you have another movie.
Anytime, guys. And again, Chris, congratulations on the movie. I know that was a labor of love. I was so happy to get the Blu-ray when you sent it a couple weeks ago. I'm like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. You guys really do hold the torch to the kind of cinema that I love, the kind of cinema that I know everybody in the chat loves. And what you guys, you're doing God's work basically. So keep up the cinema God's work, please. And Cthulhu loves all of you.
Thank you. And on that note, Alan is going to talk more about Dix the Musical. So there you go. We were talking.
Good segue.
Yeah, exactly. All right, take care, Joe, and say hi to Greg for me. All right, later. Thanks again. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Joe, what a real person and a cool dude. I gotta flip here. You and I have more. Wait, wait. You're muted, Alan. You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, yeah. He's got that G4 cred going too. So
heck yeah. All right. Appreciate you in the chat, like being patient. We do have more super chats. We're gonna get to everything, and we actually have more films to review. So we are going to pivot. And in the interest of pivoting, let's see. So we're gonna take that banner off. I want to talk about Holy Frit next. So Alan, you're gonna set up for that. While I take a very brief break. I'll be right back. Set up for Holy Frit and chat with the audience.
Want me to talk about it? Yeah. No, this is a documentary that that just came out in theaters. We actually saw it back at Sundance.
Wait. Can you wait for me to get back?
Oh, sure.
You got to put the banner on. Just
I've got the banner. Look, there's this picture.
No, the banner, not the back. Okay. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Just be right back. It's been
super unclear at the moment. Yes, and I have to be in the wrong banner here for. There we go. So yeah, let's just get through some comments here. Let's see, from your Muslim uncle for $1.99 Flash, savior of the nerdiverse. All right. Rumble from BMO Better, sub supporter. I came for dicks and I stayed for the sex. You're welcome. Let's see. There's one here for the other two we'll save for later. And let's see. Yeah, if you want to grab some more chats, that'd be great. Patrick Lemire says, "I love Film Threat Fridays." Yeah, we're doing great. Oh, and Lord Thoth, great interview. Henry, back to play, great interview. Thank you. By the way, I should mention on the Film Threat interview channel, I did an interview with Jeremy Piven about his new movie, The Performance. And please go to the Film Threat interview channel. Check out that interview. It was with him, his sister Shira, who directed the movie, and their producer. And please go to the Film Threat interview channel, like, subscribe, watch that interview. It's nice to get some high profile interviews in, and love to see the numbers go up on that one as well.
Well, first of all, I haven't seen the interview yet. I plan to see it. Yeah. This documentary is one of my favorites of the year. And it's you would think. So the story of Holy Frit, and we're going to talk about what Frit is. They reveal what the word Frit means in the film. It's about the construction of the largest stained glass window in the world.
Yeah, it's the size of an NBA basketball court.
Right. It's incredible. It's a couple things. It's comprised of 161 individual pieces that form like a puzzle, one giant image of Jesus, stories from the Bible, and characters throughout religious history. And for a film that is about a stained glass window that is the largest stained glass window ever constructed, put into a church, I believe in Kansas. Am I correct in that?
Yes, Kansas City.
So
Missouri. That's what you're asking.
Yeah. The movie is not particularly religious. It doesn't push many things. It's not really religious. It's about the construction of this. And I'll say, just as someone who has been fascinated for years about like how man can create incredible things like the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, the Empire State Building, the tunnel that connects, and the train that connects London to Paris that goes through mountains. They built machines to bore through mountains to be able to construct this train. I'm obsessed with like documentaries and stories about how did we make a thing all the way through NASA. Part of my obsession with NASA is just, well, how do we get to the moon? And the various phases they went to. Do you know how many things were invented during the Apollo? Everything from like, crazy glue. The reason crazy glue exists is because of NASA. You know, there's so many different like little inventions we take for granted that came from we need a thing to do this. It doesn't exist, and we bring it into life. This construction of this incredible piece of art and the documenting of it is amazing. It's the actual place where they made the pieces, the stained glass art, is in Pasadena. Oddly, it's in South Pasadena area, which is amazing. And you learn what Frit is. So, and you meet the guy. What's the name of the is the main designer?
Oh, I want to say Tim Carey. I think that's the name. We actually there's an interview on the interview channel where I talked to the director and the main guy, the guy who designed the whole thing.
So they document. I mean, it was years in the making. So years in the making.
And they were on a deadline.
Yeah, they were on a deadline because it coincided with the opening of this new church. So the church was opening, and then they had to get this stained glass piece. Otherwise, they would have had like no, it would have just been open to the world if they didn't have this stained glass. And so there's like this race against time. So it almost has like a reality. It's like all about so it's about art. It's about like, there's a little bit of a deadline. So you've kind of got like almost a reality TV, like, are they going to make the deadline? Are they not? There's the stresses of the main designer. And if he's going to, they bring in this other expert, and Frit is actually, I'll tell you what Frit is now. Frit is the ground up pieces of glass that you use to paint stained glass. It was a process that was developed by another designer.
So did you just freeze up? Is that Chris? Okay. Yeah. So we should kind of, if I complete his thought, so yeah, they would ground up the glass, and the glass would be a color. Now here's the thing about this particular painting. You can kind of see it in the background there, but in traditional stained glass paintings or stained glass windows, you have the glass. The glass is a color, and then you piece the colors together to create the painting. And so each fragment of the glass would be cordoned off by wire, and then that's why stained glass tends to have that tiled look. But if you look in the background here, there's a new technology that had to come into play, and I don't know if there's a way for me to show the background at all. Not really, to go back, but what was promised, this is the most incredible thing about the start of this project, but the promise was that the stained glass wouldn't be done that way. It would be done in a way that had never been done before, and that's the idea of taking glass and being able to paint with glass. So a single piece of glass would have, variations of colors in it, as opposed to one color broken up into little pieces. And the thing about it is that this was unproven technology. Because glass is made with certain chemicals, certain elements that gives its color, and when you combine them into hot molten glass, it becomes unstable. And so there was a promise that they were going to produce this painting, the stained glass, with this new technology that had never been created before, and they got the job based on this promise of something they didn't know what to do. And that's when they brought in this expert named Narcissus to come in and to guide him through it. And the whole, the whole movie is about this, just the pressure ultimately to get this done in time for the opening of the church, which in and of itself was another big problem. And so it's just, to me, the documentary is just fascinating because one, I call it an open-ended documentary, meaning when they started making the documentary, the end was not in sight. The documentarian came in at the pitch process because he was friends with Tim, the main guy, and they just started filming, and he would just come in every day filming. And the question was whether they could actually complete this stained glass window, and then money comes in, the budget. There was a promise of a budget, and they realized they couldn't make that budget. Then there was an issue with the chemical they were using for the color red, and it came to be that the state that was producing that glass or where the glass was being produced outlawed those chemicals, and so they were going to run out. It was actually the color green and yellow that they had problems with, and so yeah, it's just it's just a very tense movie, but it's ultimately spoiler alert, it was done, but the process was mind-boggling. There was, oh man, there's a human drama behind this. And one thing that I found interesting in talking to the filmmaker was that a significant portion of this film was shot using his iPhone, and this harkens back to the idea of anyone can make a movie. You have the tools available, and there were days where he just had to. Chris lost power, so hopefully, Chris, you could just maybe come in on your cell phone or something like that, and we can go that way. And so, yeah, this documentary definitely, let's see, I'm sorry, no power at my place, I can't return. You can't, your cell phone, you can't get on your cell phone or an iPad or something like that. Do you need, here, let me see if I can, how do I text him the link? I know, I'll just do it through. Here, I'll send you the link on River. Let me see. Sorry about this, folks. Let me give me 1 second here. Okay, I sent the link to you on River. You should be able to pull that on your phone. Let's see. Let's see what else he says. Invite, link, and text. Yeah, can you get to it on River? Chris lost power. Yeah. Yeah. Whoops, sorry. This is from not River use text. Okay. Dang it. Okay, give me 1 second here. This is where I wish the reason I'm on a PC. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. I will have, yeah. Okay, so my cell phone Face ID doesn't recognize my face at the moment. All right, almost there. Okay, now I'm trying to find out where, and I bet you the email I sent to myself is probably in the junk mail. Oh no, I haven't sent it yet. Here we go. Okay. Almost there, Chris. If it will show up in my mailbox. Yeah, here's where the fun comes in. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, almost there. All right, and then the final step. Dang it. Ah, criminy. Okay, give me a second here. Sorry, don't ignore that text I just sent you. Here it is. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is fun. Here we go. Mike MC Wong, do a Sailor Moon transform back into Ingtopia regular. There we go. Yeah, Miss P Coffee, Chris should be back soon. Oh, here we go.
You guys, okay, by the way, do you pay attention to the chat? This is ridiculous. I'm like in the green room screaming. I tried to call you. I tried to text you. Whatever. Look, I have no power, and it's not like it rebooted. I have no power at my place. My system all is out. I hope I didn't destroy my mixing board. Like everything's up. So I'm apologizing to the audience about this, but also I'm sending you messages in the chat. Did you not see it?
I just because I'm trying to send you the link on the phone. You should have texted me on the phone because
I did text you on the phone and I called you. Whatever. Right. I'm just like now I have no power. I don't even know what I'm going to do. All my power is out in my place, and there was no warning. So this is ridiculous. Anyways, I think we're just going to have to first of all, holy Frit, great movie. Yeah. We're going to have to end the stream, I guess. Yeah.
But we did interview the filmmaker and star of Holy Frit, and we also have an interview with Jeremy Piven. Please check that out on the Film Threat interview channel.
Check it out on the Film Threat channel. I just want to say thank you to our mods today. Sorry the show went long. I have no idea what's happening, but I have no power at my place.
Yes. So thank you to Lord Thoth and Latino Slant. Thank you, Polly.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Ms. P. Coffee and Glenn. And now I'm going to find out I have no power. There's no power.
Okay, we have a super chat from Thomas Pickett. We have some power drama here. Put in some dramatic music. The tension, if Chris can't connect, we shall see. Thomas Pickett also says $2. Kick in the wind farm being California. Yeah. Fortunately, we're not running.
Oh my God. Is this one of these rolling blackouts they talk about? Anyways, I have no power. Like my place is just dead.
Yeah, probably someone ran into a power line somewhere near your house.
Possible. I'm going to go talk to my neighbors and see if they also don't have power. But great. Awesome. Yeah.
The wig looks especially good on you right now.
Does it look good? Does it look good? All right. Well, Alan, if you could wrap up the show and just end the show, I'll get the audio uploaded later today. Thank you to everybody. And my apologies. This was completely, obviously something that just happened. And there you go. And Alan, just a note, if something happens like that, check your text messages.
Well, I'm trying to, I'm multitasking here.
I was in the chat. Here.
All right. Well, hey everybody, thanks for joining us.
Hey everybody, I'm gonna leave. Alan will wrap up the show, and thank you. Happy Halloween. We had all this other stuff to talk about, so
we'll get to it Wednesday because
my Halloween recommendations are watch The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. Do a John Carpenter. Watch Halloween, They Live, and The Thing. I got your Halloween all set. And we will get all the movies we were going to review today. We will get to next week. And my apologies. Yeah. Take care, Alan.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay. We'll end real quick. Be sure to subscribe. We are inching our way to 94,000 subscribers. Please like and subscribe, do that. And I guess that's it. You gotta do the video at the end and then you gotta end it. Yes, I know. I've got the video right up. All right. So what else do you want to
then you have to push end before it ends.